Yo legends! Welcome to Fanfiction Legend. Grab your headphones because today's story is about to hit different. Disclaimer: I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. Note: I'm constantly tweaking the settings to make it as immersive as possible. Marvel, the Kryptonian who ate the multiverse. Chapter 1, Lyon, the Time Traveler. P.S. A storage place for the brain. P.S. Don't blame me if there are more than two main female characters in the plot. If you can't accept it, please be gentle. Divider Lyon, I hope you can take good care of yourself in the future. I don't know if I can successfully break through tomorrow. Another early morning. Lyon woke up to the sound of a call in his ear. At this moment, the golden sunlight filled his whole body, like a handsome knight in his sleep being illuminated by holy light. His black hair was straight and his eyelashes trembled slightly. He suddenly opened his eyes and a bright light seemed to rise in his black pupils, as dazzling as the sun. Tony! Lyon subconsciously called out a name. Tony Stark, the biological son of his adoptive parents and his older brother, had just called him in a farewell tone, but there was no sign of Tony beside him. He realized immediately something happened to Tony. How could it be? Wait. Didn't he listen to my advice and went to Afghanistan anyway? Damn, this arrogant guy. I clearly emphasized this to him so many times. Lyon wordlessly reached out and tapped the electronic display screen beside him. The intelligent system responded quickly. With a click, the restraints around Lyon's waist were untied, and the next moment he floated gently in the air. It's not just him. Around him, paper towels, plates, tapes, all kinds of messy objects were floating in the air like him, without any rules, like a group of plankton submerged in a pool and swimming freely. But this is not a pool. It's the interior of a manned spacecraft. The bed that Lyon used to sleep on was not a bed, but a titanium alloy plate fixed to the cabin. He was tied to this board day and night, facing the scorching sun all the time. When you are hungry, you can eat fruit puree and meat sauce. When you are thirsty, you can drink nutrient solution. When you need to go to the toilet, you can directly control the intelligent system to solve the problem on the spot. It can be said that it is no different from being grown on a titanium alloy plate. He had been living like this for half a year. Although I didn't get the full 2.5 years of sun exposure as planned, even if I only got half a year, it would have been enough. Lyon clenched his fists in the air, feeling more powerful than ever before. At this moment, every cell and every drop of blood in his body was full of strength. As the sun's rays spread over his naked body, they passed through his chest and arms along his perfect muscular lines. He seemed to be able to hear his cells cheering and his blood rushing like thawing glaciers flowing into rivers. This is the power of Kryptonians, Lyon exclaimed as he looked at the huge sun hundreds of millions of kilometers away through the 2-meter-high transparent space porthole in front of him. He had been in this world for almost 19 years, and he had never thought that he would be able to gain the power to overturn the world so easily. Looking at the deep starry sky outside the window, Lyon couldn't help but recall his past. Lyon Stark, a time traveler. In his previous life, his name was Lyon. He was just an ordinary office worker and thought he would live an ordinary life. Unexpectedly, one day when he was riding the subway home, he was stabbed to death after his mistake because he bravely tried to stop a mentally ill patient from stabbing people with a knife. When I opened my eyes again, I had grown into a baby who was almost 1 year old. He traveled through time, or was reborn, and it was not until he was 1 year old that he awakened his memories of his past life. As for memories before the age of 1, it can be said that there are almost none because the brain is not fully developed. In this world, he was originally an abandoned baby and was adopted by Howard Stark by chance. The first thing he saw when he regained his memory was Tony Stark's crying face. Poor Tony's face was covered with tear marks, and his eyes were red from crying. I held him in my arms without saying a word. Later he learned that on the day his memory awakened, the Starks died in a car accident, and he was the only survivor in the car. At that time, he was tightly pressed under a ball of baby wrap and thrown casually on the side of the road. His neck was roughly wrapped twice by the wrap. A few meters away was the flaming wreckage of a car explosion. Doctors said that it was a miracle that he survived, and it was the last miracle that the Starks left to the world. Perhaps Tony also agreed with this statement. He regarded Lyon as the continuation of his parents' lives, so he really raised Lyon like his own brother. So, based on the facts, rather than saying that Howard Stark is Lyon's adoptive father, it is better to say that Tony is the one who is both the father and the mother. Of course, he wasn't very good at it. After all, what kind of good father would hang his 2-year-old son around his neck, go to a party to hook up with a cover girl, and then come home at night, put his son on the sofa, and spend the long night with the beauty? Fortunately, Tony later met Pepper Potts. With Pepper's care, Lyon was no longer troubled by the noise that kept him awake every night. During those sleepless nights, Lyon had secretly made a note of Tony in his heart, thinking, "When you go to Afghanistan, let's see if you can still date the cover girl." Lyon knew that according to the original plot, Tony would have to go to Afghanistan sooner or later. He had basically watched all the Marvel movies in his previous life. When he heard the names of his adoptive parents and older brother, he knew what kind of world he had traveled to. To be honest, the danger index of the Marvel world is not low. Not to mention those supervillains who would show up at any time to show their faces and get a box lunch, causing a large number of civilian casualties. Just saying that if the time point of traveling through the Marvel world is wrong, Loki, the god of stories, has not yet ascended the throne of time. As soon as this time traveler landed on the ground, he would not even have time to let out a few loud cries before the fully armed employees of the Time Management Bureau would have to abduct and eliminate him. Fortunately, despite the fear, Lyon managed to live to the age of 18. He speculated that the timeline of the multiverse might have been disrupted and the divine timeline no longer existed. This is a good time to travel through time. But this still does not affect the fact that the Marvel world is extremely dangerous. Especially when he has a close relationship with Tony Stark, one of the story's protagonists. And in this kind of world, there is a chance of encountering villains just by going out. He waited for 18 years but never got his golden finger. He doesn't have Tony's IQ, nor Spider-Man's mutations, nor does he have the standard system of a time traveler. He could only comfort himself that at least he traveled through time and space once and lived one more life, which was not a loss at all. Besides, the world he traveled to was not a dark and cruel world like the Lord of Mysteries, Deagui, and Perfection, so he could just be happy. However, even though he was just an ordinary person, he still used his advantage as a prophet to make some changes to the best of his ability. In 2006, at the age of 16, Lyon, who did not wait for the arrival of the Space-Time Administration, chose to try to change the world. He used his plot foresight to guide Tony and try to create advantages. First, he guided Tony to develop a series of new civilian electronic products such as smartphones and tablet computers, which were not available until 2007. Driven by these high-tech products, Stark Group is now more than just an arms company. The group's business scope has expanded greatly. It is already the world's #1 company. In addition, Lyon also tried his best to guide Tony to develop the arc reactor. Unfortunately, Tony has never thought about research in this area, and always brushes it off with the excuse that this technology is not yet possible. In fact, this guy just doesn't want to put in the effort to study. After all, in Tony's first half of his life, there was no technological product that he didn't come up with at the drop of a hat. Even the epoch-making product like the smartphone was invented by him after he heard Lyon say, "It would be great if the mobile phone could be turned into a screen that could be clicked directly with hands." Then he thought about it and developed it. Tony was too lazy to study the arc reactor, and Lyon had no choice. After all, no one could persuade a stubborn donkey to change his ways. After 2 years, the changes brought by Lyon have come to an end. He is like an industrious bee, looking everywhere for the fate that can be changed. He also tried to find Bucky's whereabouts and avenge the Starks, or expose Obadiah and send him to prison. Unfortunately, in the end, none of these goals were achieved. Obadiah hid his true colors very well, and only revealed his true colors a year ago, when he caught him and told Tony about it. But Tony was too sentimental, and even when he had doubts, he was still willing to believe his uncle. Just having a deep conversation with Obadiah, Tony felt relieved that everything was resolved. Faced with this frustrating situation, Lyon could only emphasize to Tony again and again that he must not let his guard down and must not go alone to war zones like Afghanistan. As for looking for Buggy, Lyon couldn't do it openly. Hydra's power is deeply intertwined in this world. He is just an ordinary person. If he investigates rashly, he will only expose himself and end up like Howard. He couldn't even tell Tony. On the one hand, as the younger generation in the family, he has little say, and Tony may not believe what he says. Tony is about 20 years older than the protagonist. On the other hand, even without mentioning the source of the intelligence, it just guides Tony to think. With Tony's arrogant personality, he would definitely use Jarvis to invade various confidential agencies as soon as he became suspicious. At that time, it would only lead to Tony and him facing assassination after Hydra became alert. Maybe the one who came to kill people was still the old guy Bucky, and in the end, this old comrade of Captain America was happy to get Stark's quadruple kill achievement. In Marvel, ordinary people are so powerless, even if Lyon is Stark. His position in this world is like Justin Hammer of Hammer Industries. He has money, but that's all. At most he just has a genius brother. Fortunately, all this changed on my 18th birthday. Chapter 2: Awakening of Bloodline. On his 18th birthday, Lyon rolled over when he got up from bed and collapsed the edge of the bed. Everything in the house became fragile to him, breaking at the slightest touch and cracking at the slightest touch. It seemed as if overnight he had traveled to a world made of hydrogen, where every brick and tile was as thin as paper. When Tony heard the noise, he kept exclaiming, "Oh my God," amid the mess. He gave up his plan to hold a birthday party and quickly gave him a full-body checkup. The force is 30 tons, the speed is 100 meters per second, and the body is invulnerable to swords. Everything changed overnight. And the changes don't just stop there. Lyon could feel that he was still getting stronger under the sun. Tony also confirmed through research that Lyon's cells would remain active and show a leap-forward improvement after being exposed to sunlight. "This is simply Superman," Tony exclaimed in astonishment. "I wouldn't be surprised even if you use a heat ray again tomorrow." Lyon was stunned for a moment, then suddenly understood his own changes and nodded. "Tony, you are right. I am really a Superman now." A clear message emerged in his mind. Reaching the age of adulthood at the age of 18, the abilities bestowed by the original world are unlocked, the Kryptonian bloodline is awakened, and the ability to travel through time and space is awakened. Needless to say, they are of Kryptonian descent, the signature race of the DC world next door, and they can become stronger by basking in the sun. But unfortunately, he seems to have only ordinary Kryptonian blood. Just relying on sunbathing, it is estimated that it will not reach the level of Silver Super or Gold Super. The ability to travel through time and space is just as the name suggests. As long as he has enough reserve energy, he can travel to other time and space at will. As to whether it is possible to travel within the Marvel universe or to jump out of Marvel and reach a wider universe, it remains to be tried, but no matter. His golden finger finally arrived. Lyon's joy was beyond words, and he hugged Tony and cheered. So Tony immediately broke 2 ribs and his shoulder blade as a sign of respect, and was admitted to the operating room that day. At night, Lyon stayed by Tony's bedside, regretting his carelessness and wondering how the golden finger could still deliver on time according to the adult time. He had wasted 18 years of his time. If he had been able to awaken his bloodline and bask in the sun since childhood, he might be able to do whatever he wants now. Maybe when he was 1 year old, when Howard and his wife were assassinated by Bucky, he could take the opportunity to counterattack. Could it be that these days Goldfinger also has rules to prevent minors from becoming addicted? But he lived to be over 20 years old in his previous life, so how could he be a minor now? Lyon was puzzled. 3 months later, after discussing with Tony, Lyon applied for 3 years of late admission to the university. He boarded the manned spacecraft built by Tony himself and flew into the deep space. The spacecraft has been traveling in an orbit between the Earth and the Sun. There is no day or night here. Every minute and every second is sunshine. Half a year has passed. 180 days. Lyon tied himself to the titanium plate throughout the whole process, facing the sun's rays. He could feel the surging power running through his body like a river, creating huge waves at every moment. Even his breathing carried great power, like the mighty wind and thunder. The original plan was to bask in the sun for 2.5 years. By that time, it would be just before the Chitauri invasion, and I should have enough strength to protect myself. He clenched his fists, but now it seems that even if it's only half a year, it's enough. Lyon was a little cautious. More than a decade of uneasy experience under the shadow of the space-time administration. This caused him to have a severe fear of insufficient firepower. Whenever he went out, he wished he could bring a hired squad with him, with everyone armed with machine guns and bazookas. After the Kryptonian bloodline awakened, he has the qualifications to pursue power. I even want to dive into the sun, sleep for 10 or 8 years and then come out again. Today, he is not a seeker of truth, but he can be considered to have the mentality of an ascetic monk who diligently pursues power. Get stronger. Get stronger. Get stronger than everyone else. More than 10 years of anxiety filled Lyon's heart with a desire for power. No, it's not enough. It's far from enough. Lyon denied the complacency that had just arisen in his heart the next second. He clenched his fists tightly, his marble-like muscles knotted and knotted. I've only been in the sun for half a year, and I'm already feeling complacent. Damn me! The power of a Kryptonian isn't enough. I only have the blood of an ordinary Kryptonian. There's a limit to how much I can do with just sunbathing. In order to become stronger, I won't become Kryptono. My next step is to find more sources of power besides basking in the sun. Magic, technology, martial arts, anything is fine. Let's try every method of becoming stronger that we can find on Earth. After half a year of exposure to the sun, Lyon has now awakened all the abilities of Superman, the Man of Steel. Heat rays, freeze breath, bioforce fields, including a super brain. With a super brain, he can now acquire knowledge and abilities at an unprecedented speed. Reading a book and learning a skill will be as fast as copying electronic data on a disk. From now on, what will limit him will only be the speed of knowledge input, not the speed of understanding and penetration. Lyon can now say proudly, the speed at which language imparts knowledge bytes at a time is as slow as a snail crawling on the ground. But before that, Lyon tilted his head and cast a dim gaze towards the earth. His ears moved slightly, and his sight shifted in the direction where Tony's voice came from, passing through layer after layer of barriers. The walls of spacecraft, the Earth's atmosphere, the dust on the surface except lead, nothing in the world could block his gaze. In less than a second, he saw Tony, who was currently sleeping in a cave in the Afghan desert. Be it Obadiah, Bucky, or Hydra, it's time to put these things to rest. After 18 years of being submissive, my blood suddenly awakened. Now that dust has cleared and light is born, I know that I am myself. With strength comes confidence. Although I feel deep down that this power is still far from enough. But Lyon also knew that he was indeed qualified to do some small things on Earth. Tony, I'm here to save you, Lyon said softly. He casually picked up a pair of pants floating in the air and put them on, then floated forward and gently pushed forward with his right hand. All is silent in a vacuum. There was no sound. The spacecraft door cannot be damaged even if it is hit by a huge force of tens of thousands of tons. In an instant, it slowly fell like a thin black dress and gradually drifted away in the universe. Lyon lowered his head and floated out of the cabin. He stands between the earth and the sun. The golden sunlight shines all over my body. On the other side is the blue earth. He looked up at the sun and down at the earth, as if he were already a god in the world, able to hold up the sky and the earth with just a wave of his hand. But Lyon knew it was all fake. He still has a long way to go. Suppress the passion that is rising in your heart again. Lyon leaned forward, paused slightly, and then broke through the air in an instant and headed straight for the earth. Chapter 3: Tony Stark. Boom! As soon as he entered the atmosphere, a sonic boom occurred around Lyon. His speed even exceeded the second cosmic speed. After entering the atmosphere, his figure split the entire sky into two. The huge air pressure generated by the extremely high speed cuts through the sea of clouds. The invisible air waves tore the floating clouds in the sky into pieces, and at this moment they suddenly took shape, surrounding Lyon like an air shield, dragging a long trail in the sky. It was like a world serpent falling from the sky to the human world, and would devour everything it encountered. As he approached the ground, Lyon began to slow down, decelerating at a rate of more than 5 kilometers per second. He had to slow down. If he landed at full speed, he would cause extensive damage to the surrounding surface even if he used the bioforce field for protection. The distance between the spacecraft and the ground is 30,000 kilometers, and the distance from North America to Afghanistan is tens of thousands of kilometers. It took him less than 20 minutes. Lyon hovered over Afghanistan, and all the floating clouds above his head were pushed away by the air waves. There was no cloud in the sky at the moment, and it was around 10 o'clock in the evening. Lyon did not stop, but twisted his body in the air and continued to fly eastward. This time his speed was very slow, more than 200 meters per second, not even exceeding the speed of sound. He flew like an invisible ghost above the cave where Tony was imprisoned. "Tony, it's time to get up," Lyon whispered as he saw Tony, who was frowning and sleeping in the cave. Then he fell downwards as fast as a meteor. Boom! The hard mountain covered with rocks was not much better than thin paper in front of Lyon. He pierced through the rock and soil that was more than 10 meters thick and entered the cave. Lyon fell from the top of the cave and half-crouched in front of Tony's bed, just like the posture when Tony appeared in the movie wearing a battle suit. From the broken roof of the cave, pieces of rubble fell with him, some big and some small, making continuous impact sounds in the cave. Boom! Bang! 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 Vibrations, loud noises, continuous vibrations and continuous loud noises. Anyone sleeping and awakened by such noise would think that the world was about to end. Tony was no exception. He was a light sleeper to begin with, and was instantly awakened by the sound of Lyon penetrating the cave. Then he was frightened by the continuous loud noises and screamed, "Those guys are attacking us." His face was filled with panic, and he subconsciously thought that it was terrorists who couldn't wait to attack us. A terrorist organization kidnapped him, and the leader of the organization asked him to build a batch of Jericho missiles. Tomorrow is the final delivery date he and the other party agreed upon. According to the plan, he will put on the prepared Mark armor tomorrow and fight his way out of the terrorist organization with his assistant Ethan. It will be a tough battle. For this reason, just a few minutes ago, he prayed before going to bed, hoping that tomorrow's plans would go smoothly. If things don't go well, I hope Pepper and Lyon can take care of themselves in the future. As a result, after only a few minutes of sleep after praying, these terrorists couldn't wait and attacked. Damn it, even Lyon wasn't this anxious when he peed his pants. Tony cursed subconsciously, looking around in panic, and yelled, "Ethan! Ethan, are you okay? Those guys are coming. Wait, why did this damn cave collapse? Oh, Lyon, go check on Ethan. Wait a minute, Lyon? Tony stared with wide eyes at Lyon, who was half squatting beside his bed. The boy was only wearing a pair of trousers. Gravel was falling from above his head, but not a single grain of sand fell on him. Lyon, why are you here? Tony tilted his head back and almost couldn't help rubbing his eyes with his hands, wondering if he was hallucinating before he died. Shock and confusion mixed in his eyes. Tony's heartbeat quickened and his hands shook slightly. He felt that he was definitely hallucinating. The return date of Lyon's spaceship was clearly 2 years later. So how could that kid appear in front of him at this time? But you know what, even if it was an illusion, Lyon's posture was really handsome, and it was obvious that only Tony could come up with it. However, the illusion Lyon stood up and looked at Tony with a smile. Because I heard you thinking about me late at night, calling my name over and over, saying you couldn't sleep without seeing me. So I came here. To be honest, I'm quite surprised that my brother still needs help to sleep at the age of 39. Lyon joked, I can sing lullabies and hum country ballads. Tony, what kind of way do you like to coax you to sleep? Oh, let me make it clear first, I can't hold you and rock you around. That's Pepper's job. Tony was stunned for a moment, then retorted reflexively. Hey, kid, I'm the one who holds you and rocks you to sleep. Pepper hasn't held you as many times as I have. Tony meant that you are the one who is rebelling. This is how the two of them get along. Tony has a tsundere personality, and Lyon likes to make jokes and teased tsundere Tony. Please, a man who is almost 40 years old still says I reluctantly accepted your holiday gift. Then the old man displayed it in his own storage room as if it were a treasure. It's very cute, okay? Tony responded just as he finished his retort. His eyes widened, his body trembling slightly with excitement, and he stood up. Lyon, you really came? How could it be? I mean, how did you do it? You should be 300 kilometers away in space now. He even reached out and squeezed Lyon's arm. The solid muscles felt like pieces of marble, so clear to the touch. This is not an illusion. Lyon is really here. This guy is here to save him. Tony was shocked, but his whole body relaxed at this moment, and his tense nerves suddenly relaxed. An indescribable sense of security arose spontaneously, and all the fatigue of the past few months suddenly flooded into my heart. He couldn't help but smile, and stepped back, slamming his butt onto the bed, letting out a long sigh of relief. No one knows Lyon's strength better than him. When tested half a year ago, Lyon already had a force of 500 tons, and a defense so strong that even sniper rifles could only leave scratches. Now with Lyon, those terrorists outside will no longer be a problem. Lyon raised his eyebrows. To be precise, it is a satellite orbit more than 40,000 kilometers away from here. I heard you crying to me about your grievances while I was sleeping, and I rushed over immediately. He blinked and said, after all, apart from Pepper, no one in this world can let my brother be wronged. Tony was frowning. Oh, you are wrong. Not even Pepper can make me feel wronged. No one can. And I don't feel wronged. So you're having an easy and pleasant time in this cave? You traveled thousands of miles on a business trip and then went on vacation in a terrorist organization's base. Lyon looked at Tony. Tony's charming big eyes were still bright, but the deep fatigue in them could not be concealed. Chapter 4: Solve the Troubles. You're still so stubborn. Look at that beard you always used to show off. It's grown into weeds now. You're not much better. I didn't know my brother had a habit of walking around without a shirt. Tony never loses his temper. Or maybe he really enjoyed bickering with Lyon. How should I put it? This made him feel very different, like a family member. After all, Lyon is his only relative in this world. And next time you can consider changing your angle to criticize. Can you hear my voice in a spaceship in outer space? Ahaha, that's not funny. Have you forgotten the knowledge that sound cannot be transmitted in a vacuum just 6 months after graduation? Tony said that with his scientific knowledge, He could see through Lyon's lie in a second. So, did something unexpected happen to you and you came back early? Or did Pepper contact you? Is Pepper okay? No, she didn't contact me. Maybe she didn't want me to know the bad news that you were attacked and in a critical condition. Lyon shook his head. He explained, but I did hear your voice in the spaceship. You were calling my name, so I heard it. This is my newly awakened ability. Tony opened his mouth and said, your ability is really unscientific. Sound is produced by vibrations, and the propagation limit of such vibrations is generally not too far, not to mention in the vacuum of the universe, but this is the truth. I have awakened quite a few unscientific abilities this time. I will have to ask you to test me again later, Lyon said as he observed Tony. He could see the shrapnel lodged in the aortic valve in Tony's chest. He sighed. Tony, you don't look well. I guess those terrorists tortured you a lot. He frowned. The shrapnel pierced the artery around the heart. We can only use magnetism to temporarily delay the injury. It's like a sharp knife hanging over our heads at any time. Those damn bastards. Tony was stunned for a moment. He saw Lyonson's cold eyes and felt a little moved. His lips moved and finally he shook his head. This minor injury is nothing. But you came at the right time. I was preparing to break out according to the plan tomorrow. But now, we can just fight our way out without worrying about Ethan's safety. Oh, by the way, Ethan. He suddenly slapped his forehead and stood up quickly. Then he remembered that Ethan had been silent for a long time. Ethan, are you okay? Are you so you are here? Tony gave a slightly awkward smile. A slightly bald middle-aged man wearing a vest, who looked like an engineer, was standing quietly beside the two of them. It turned out that Ethan had always been not far away from the two of them. It's just that Tony's attention was all on Lyon and he ignored Ethan. Ethan spread his hands and said, I haven't slept yet. In fact, I came here just when this gentleman fell from the top of the cave. Tony nodded awkwardly, smiled for a few seconds, then pulled Lyon's shoulder and introduced him. Ethan, this is my brother Lyon Stark. Lyon, this is Ethan, my friend. He saved my life. Tony introduced the two to each other. The two shook hands and said hello. Lyon knew that Ethan was a good person. I didn't expect Tony to be able to make friends in the cave. You must have been taking care of him during this time. Otherwise it would not be easy for him to survive with his injuries. Oh no, I actually just Ethan shook his head. Lyon raised his hand to stop him from speaking. No need to say polite words. Ethan, you saved Tony, so you are my friend. What we have to do now is to fight out and send those guys outside to where they should go one by one. Lyon's face was as calm as a lake, but his eyes were full of mighty wind and thunder. Maybe we can come up with a plan first. Those guys have strong firepower. Ethan hesitated slightly. Plan? No need for a plan. Tony interrupted. He walked proudly to the armor he had built. Patting the armor, he said, Look, Lyon, this is my masterpiece from the past few months. Even if you didn't come today, Ethan and I would definitely be able to kill those guys tomorrow. Lyon looked at Tony, who was showing off his toys like a child, and shook his head helplessly. You can keep your little toys for later use. I'll walk in front and you just need to follow me. He said succinctly, my sunshine over the past 6 months has not been in vain. Unbelievable, Lyon. I know you are an average student and you may not understand the greatness of my armor. Tony couldn't accept that his masterpiece was called a toy, so when you don't understand the situation, you can keep silent and watch me show you how excellent it is. Lyon held Tony's shoulder and said, Tony, maybe your little toy is indeed better. But I have to tell you that I flew here directly from a spaceship wearing these pants. Tony's eyes widened slightly. Flying back from the universe in physical form alone? And the pants that Lyon was wearing looked like they hadn't been washed for a long time, but there was no damage at all. Tony knew very well what this meant. What? You Tony was speechless. It's over. Now his armor is almost like a toy. So you just follow me. Lyon smiled. But before that, there's one more thing. He glanced around and stopped at Tony's chest. I have to help you solve the problem first. Consequences? Tony didn't understand for a moment. But Lyon has already taken action. His body did not shake at all. His right hand was on Tony's shoulder, and his left hand suddenly became blurry for a moment. Then Tony felt his chest tighten, and just as a sharp pain was about to hit his heart, it dissipated in an instant. 1, 2, 3. There are still quite a few fragments, Tony. You can still survive with such injuries. You can really say that you have a strong vitality. What did you say? Tony touched his chest subconsciously. When he looked up again, but he saw Lyon spread out his palm, on which lay a dozen tiny shrapnels quietly. Look, I just took out the shrapnel from your chest. I'll leave these shrapnel for you to keep, to commemorate the fact that you have finally grown up and learned to take responsibility after experiencing a huge change at the age of nearly 40. Lyon stuffed the shrapnel in his hand to Tony and turned to walk towards the closed door of the cave. In just less than a microsecond, he used a bioforce field to hold the shrapnel in Tony's body. Then he used the fingertips of his left hand to cut tiny wounds on Tony's chest and quickly removed all the shrapnel. Then he used heat rays to stop Tony's bleeding and heal his wound. The movements were as smooth as clouds, as swift as thunder, yet as calm as water. Even the scene in Tony's eyes didn't change. But when he reacted, he touched his chest and found that the arc reactor was still there, but there were more than a dozen holes on his clothes. This. Tony's eyes moved back and forth between Lyon's palm and his chest, and he stopped talking again. Lyon gave him too many shocks today. So much so that he didn't even bother to refute his younger brother's ridicule about finally growing up. Let's go, it's time to leave. Lyon took the lead. Chapter 5. Devastated. He stood in front of the gate and gave a gentle push, and the heavy iron gate collapsed. Lyon's swift and decisive action stunned both Tony and Ethan. Before they could come to their senses, suddenly someone shouted loudly outside the iron gate. Fire! Give an order. Intensive gunfire rang out, and the pouring bullets were as dense as torrential rain falling to the ground. There was such a loud noise in the cave before. The terrorist organization had already noticed something was wrong. Under the command of the leader, all the people lined up with guns in the corridor in front of the cave entrance, waiting to empty the magazines of their rifles. When they received the order, everyone opened fire without hesitation. But Lyon's reaction speed was faster than their shooting. He glanced around and stretched out his hands to protect Tony and Ethan behind him. The next second, countless bullets hit him almost at the same time. The crisp sound of collision continued to ring out, but it doesn't have the slightest killing effect. The moment the bullets hit Lyon, they were deformed by the huge force and fell to the ground. Even the bullet that hit Lyon's cornea was no exception. At the same time, a large number of bullets hit the mountain walls and the ground, stirring up large amounts of dust and blocking the view. Amid the flying dust, the terrorists fired for more than half a minute before the gunfire gradually stopped. Jillikulu! Jillikulu! The terrorists shouted, feeling that no one could survive such a crossfire. The leader stood behind the corner of the corridor with his arms folded, leaning his head out to stare at the dusty and foggy cave. After a few seconds, he waved his hand and sent people forward to check. No one took it seriously, thinking that there couldn't be any living people inside. At most, the difference was just that the body would be broken into a few or dozens of pieces. But that's it. 2 scarlet spots of light rose in the smoke. That spot of light seemed to contain infinite murderous intent, making people feel creepy and terrified when they saw it. What is that? A bat? Someone asked stupidly. No one answered, but the next second everyone no longer had any questions. The brightness of the 2 points of red light rose rapidly, and then emitted 2 captivating heat rays. The thick, long red ray was definitely the most terrifying laser weapon the terrorists had ever seen in their lives. With just a sweep from left to right, all the people on the path were cut in half, dying on the spot, with even the cut surfaces being burnt into a bloody mess. The speed of the ray was so fast that no one could react. All the people blocking the corridor in front of the cave entrance were killed almost instantly, without even having time to utter a single scream. The people blocking the other side of the corridor only saw a flash of red light, and then the people standing in front of them were all cut in half and killed. They stood there in shock, their minds blank, too late to react. It was the bald leader in the crowd who came back to his senses first. So, that's a laser weapon developed by Tony Stark. He was extremely shocked and extremely sure. Damn it, he's been building this thing for months. We were deceived by him. The leader's final verdict calmed everyone's blank minds a little, but they still looked at each other, not knowing what to do. As long as it's a weapon, it's used by humans. The leader then judged, since someone is going to use it, we just need to kill the people inside and the laser weapon will be ours. He ordered, everyone retreat, use grenades to bomb the cave, and kill Tony Stark for me. After saying this, the leader licked his lips, his eyes revealing an unconcealable greed. I just want that laser weapon. As for Stark, kill him and ask Obadiah Stane for the money. The leader's order calmed everyone down completely. That makes so much sense. No matter how powerful Stark's laser weapon is, as long as they kill him, the weapon will be theirs. Almost everyone subconsciously forgot that the previous round of salvos failed to kill the people in the cave. The terrorists all stepped back, taking out grenades and preparing to throw them. However, footsteps suddenly sounded from the other side of the cave corridor. It sounded like only one person's footsteps, neither hurried nor slow, strolling leisurely in the garden. Wait. The leader raised his fist, signaling everyone to stop. Everyone slowly put down their grenades, raised their guns again, and stared at the corner of the corridor. Pat, pat. The footsteps are getting closer. The leader grinned and threatened. Tony Stark, do you think you can escape with a weapon? You lied to me, but it doesn't matter, because you are dead today, and your laser weapon will become mine. Oh, really? But my name is not Tony. The man responded calmly. The terrorists thought the person coming was Tony Stark. However, when the man turned the corner, they were all shocked. He was a handsome man wearing only a pair of trousers, barefoot, with his thick chest muscles exposed. Who is this? When did he enter the cave? Why haven't I seen him before? WTF? Suddenly, a burst of low curses of disbelief rang out in the corridor. Who are you? Where is Stark? The leader's already dark face became even gloomier. The cave was a familiar one, but a person who had never been seen before walked out. He suddenly began to suspect that Tony Stark had been rescued without his knowledge, and that they had been completely fooled. Lyon glanced at him. I'm Stark too. Are you Stark? The leader gnashed his teeth. You are kidding. Fire. Everyone fire. The combat skills of this group of terrorists are really good. After the leader gave the order, the muzzles of the guns in their hands once again spewed out flames. Lyon did not dodge or evade, allowing the bullets to hit him, and walked forward at a leisurely pace. His super brain told him that he could relax here just as much as he did at home. However, the terrorists, who were his enemies, felt completely different. Their eyes widened, their hands kept pulling the triggers, but their minds were so confused that they couldn't think at all. What kind of monster is this? Even rifle bullets can't cause any harm to him. As the two sides got closer and closer, Lyon remained unscathed. Some people began to lose their minds, dropped their guns and turned to run away. Oh. Monster. Stop. The leader reflexively drew his gun to kill the deserter. But two blazing heat rays came faster than the leader, piercing through the deserter and killing him instantly. The leader stared blankly at his subordinate, who died with his eyes open on the ground, then turned his head and looked at Stark with bloodshot eyes. Those scarlet eyes seemed to come from hell. None of you who call yourself the Ten Rings gang can escape. Lyon's voice seemed to come from the abyss. The next second, the heat ray swept across again, and the entire corridor was cleared in an instant. A second later, there was no other heartbeat except Lyon's. Before the leader died, he understood something and looked at Lyon with empty eyes full of reluctance and regret. So that wasn't a laser weapon. After saying this, he completely lost his vitality. Lyon shook his head speechlessly and continued to walk out. I told you I'm also Stark. As soon as he came out of the cave, 3 rockets flew towards him at the same time. These people from the 10 Commandments are really organized and have faith. Even with such an exaggerated casualty ratio, they still dare to fight back. Lyon sighed and stretched out his right hand to block in front of him. He blocked 3 rockets one after another, and the flames of the explosion instantly engulfed him. This was followed by intensive gunfire and countless grenades. All terrorists wish to unleash all the firepower at hand in the shortest possible time. It is never too cautious to be faced with the monster that came out of the cave. But their ferocious expressions quickly froze. I saw an intact figure leap out from the flames, ignoring the bullets flying in the air. Not to mention being injured, the figure's trousers didn't even have a tear. He glanced around and his figure suddenly disappeared, then reappeared at the entrance of the cave in the next moment. Then, all the terrorists present had their necks broken one after another and fell to the ground. In a very short moment, Lyon took care of everyone at super high speed. He clapped his hands and shouted into the cave, Tony, Ethan, the terrorists have been dealt with. Come out. Chapter 6 Tony and 039's Guilt. 10 minutes later. How is it, Tony, about to leave your temporary home for the past few months? Are you sad to leave? Lyon held Tony and Ethan in each hand and floated above the cave. He joked, this is a wonderful experience that ordinary people rarely encounter once in their lifetime. Why don't you talk about your feelings? Tony's hair was messy because of the wind. You call this a wonderful experience? Damn it, Lyon, if you hadn't become Superman, I would have asked someone to arrange such a wonderful experience for you when I got back. Okay, it seems you are in a bad mood. It's my fault. I won't say anything. Lyon closed his mouth. Ethan interrupted at the right time. Mister. Lyon, may I ask what you are going to do with the space below? Are you going to leave it to the U.S.? Ethan has no favorable impression of the American government. He believes that the reason these terrorists are so rampant must be due to the U.S. Before Lyon could answer, Tony spoke up. Destroy it. Destroy all these Stark things. He looked at the boxes of weapons and ammunition with the Stark logo printed on them, his face as gloomy as water. No problem. Lyon agreed and took the 2 of them to fly to a higher place. When the distance was far enough, heat rays shot out from his eyes, instantly detonating the gunpowder in the entire base. Boom. Boxes of ammunition exploded one after another in the base. All the explosions intertwined, causing a chain reaction. Flames enveloped the entire area. A mushroom cloud more than 10 meters high rose up with a loud bang, and smoke quickly filled the air. This terrorist base, which was not small in size, has become a thing of the past. It's so horrible it's all over. Ethan muttered, his cheeks burning from the high temperature of the explosion. It's over. Your terrible memory has finally come to an end. Lyon nodded. Next, I will take you to the military base in Afghanistan. There's an old friend of Tony's there who will take you to America. Lyon turned around and flew out of the base, but I won't go with you. After all, my strength is not suitable for my identity for the time being. Ethan seemed to have some other ideas, but looking at the ground a few hundred meters below, he chose to follow the arrangements from the bottom of his heart. When Tony heard this, his gloomy expression, which had been on his face since he escaped, paused. He hesitated and said, You said it's not suitable for the time being. That is to say, what are you planning to do next, Lyon? Yes, Leon admitted, there are some things I wanted to do a long time ago, but I didn't act because I didn't have the strength. He said calmly, after returning, I can show my strength to all parties while handling these matters. This way, even if my true identity is discovered in the future, those annoying flies won't easily take action. We'll talk about what it is after we get back. Even though Superman is so strong, there is still Lex Luthor who keeps jumping up and down to cause trouble. Not to mention that he is a young man who has only been exposed to the sun for half a year. Lyon had no doubt that once his physique and strength were exposed, he would be coveted by all parties immediately. Unless he demonstrates his invincible strength and his ruthless attitude in advance. Otherwise, there will be endless troubles. There is no doubt that most people in the world fear power, but not virtue. Why do you want to persuade me not to make too much noise? Leon asked. No, Tony denied immediately. He paused for a long time before he let out a long breath and spoke awkwardly. Leon, I want to say I'm sorry for not listening to your advice and shutting down Stark's weapons department. Tony's face showed deep guilt. The guilt is not towards Leon, but towards the ordinary people who were harmed by the arms sold by Stark. More than a year ago, when Stark Group's electronics business spread all over the world, Lyon has proposed cutting and shutting down the arms business. But Tony didn't take it seriously at the time. He just thought that Leon had just become an adult, hadn't seen the world and was too sad, so he just brushed it off with a few words. Thinking about it now, Tony only felt extremely remorseful and guilty. There's no need to apologize. Leon was a little surprised, but not too surprised. He knew Tony would shut down the weapons division, but he didn't expect Tony to apologize. God knows whether Tony has ever made more than 10 serious apologies in his life. In the past, even if this guy made a mistake, he would only try to make up for it in other ways and would never admit his mistake. It seems that Tony has indeed grown a lot during the time he was kidnapped. The past cannot be undone. As the saying goes, it is never too late to mend the rift after a sheep is lost. Make up for your mistakes later, Tony. Leon comforted him gently, and the small arc generator you developed this time can be popularized as a basic energy source to benefit the world. I believe that the whole world will change because of you and become a better place in the future, so you should feel guilty, but you can't dwell on the guilt. Tony listened to Leon quietly. It was rare for him not to interrupt others when they were talking at length. After Leon finished speaking, Tony sneered, Maybe you are right. Well, there is also the matter of Obi. There is definitely something wrong with Obadiah. Leon interrupted directly. You will hesitate even if I tell you now, so I will wait for you in Los Angeles, and then we will go directly to him to settle the matter. Tony subconsciously wanted to persuade him a few more times. After all, he still had some hope for his uncle. But he opened his mouth and said nothing in the end. Instead, he nodded in a muffled voice, I'll listen to you. Hearing this, Leon couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. It seems that this experience has increased his say in Tony's opinion. It is said that people can never teach others, but things can teach people once. That is indeed the truth. After flying for a while, Leon landed in the desert with the two of them. Okay, I'll take you here. The military base is 8 kilometers ahead. Here, this is a signal gun. After I leave, you can shoot into the sky and someone will come to find you. Leon handed Tony the signal gun he had stolen from the terrorist base, then took off and prepared to leave. Wait, Tony hurriedly called out again. I forgot to tell you. Remember to bring my armor home, and if the blueprints haven't been burned, bring them back too. Why didn't you tell me in advance when we were in the cave? I don't think you can hold much more in your hands, so tell me now. Tony, there's yours. Leon gave a middle finger back, soared into the sky, broke through the sound barrier in the air and left. The two people left on the ground blinked their eyes, watching Leon leave a trail in the clouds as he left, and shrugged at each other. Won't your brother be discovered flying like this near the military base? Ethan asked. Tony raised his eyebrows. What, my brother? Didn't a guy who called himself Superman just rescue us and then left? We didn't even see his appearance clearly. Ethan suddenly realized, so this is how we escaped. Superman is such a kind-hearted person. Chapter 7. The target is lost. Boom! Tony fired his gun into the air. The flare drew an arc trajectory, flew to a height of more than 20 meters in the air, and then slowly fell down. The red lighting was particularly conspicuous in the desert at night, bright enough to clearly illuminate the faces of the two people on the ground. Okay, wait a few minutes and someone will come to pick us up. Tony threw down the flare gun. If a flare appears near the garrison base, the US will definitely use satellites to check, and then they will be able to discover that he is here and send a rescue team immediately. Tony looked at Ethan and said, "Come with me to America, Ethan, and bring your family over." He could see that Ethan had been hesitant to speak since just now. Ethan's eyes were a little complicated. My family is all dead. In fact, Tony, I would rather go back to Iran and do my best to help more people in need. The words Tony had just prepared to say were stuck in his throat as he realized that the savior in front of him had an even more tragic past. But this would make it even more imperative for him to take Ethan to America. Ethan, he began apologetically and heavily, I didn't know about your family. I'm sorry. Ethan shook his head to indicate that he didn't mind. Tony continued, I can understand your desire to return home. He could see that Ethan returned to his hometown with a clear determination to die, and actually wanted to do something risking his life. He paused, but what Lyon said before is right. I go back this time to help more people. The contribution I can make to the world. It shouldn't just be about making something that explodes. He tapped the arc reactor on his chest with his fingertips, his eyes burning. Ethan, you can come and join me. We can better help those who are hurt by violence and then change the world for the better. Ethan stared at the arc reactor in a daze. It was indeed a technology that could change the world. He hesitated a little. Boom. Suddenly, a rumbling sound of an engine came from a distance, and it became louder and louder. A patrol plane approached from a distance. The rescue plane arrived just half a minute after the flare was sent out. Ethan couldn't help but exclaim, they are so efficient. Then he watched the plane fly over his head and into the distance. It doesn't seem to be a rescue team. It looks like a light patrol plane. I guess it's going after Lyon. He was discovered by the base. Tony stared at the fighter plane flying away, but their speed doesn't even reach the speed of sound. They can't catch up with Lyon. Let's wait a little longer. Lyon's appearance was too flashy and attracted everyone's attention. But next time, when I put on the MK armor, I will definitely attract more attention from those rednecks in the military. Tony took a few steps on the spot. Of course, there's also yours. You'll have to have your own suit of armor by then. Then we can have a team called MK Team. It doesn't seem to work, so we can call it 3 minutes past as Tony chattered on, and another dense sound of engines came faintly from the sky. It was a formation of 3 helicopters. Oh, look, our rescue team is here. The 2 people, who were thirsty from staying in the desert, jumped on the ground and waved their hands the other side. As Tony said, Lyon was not caught up by the patrol plane. After all, half a minute is enough for him to fly back and forth several times. When the patrol plane caught up with him halfway, he had already flown out of Afghanistan with the mark armor and blueprints. However, unexpectedly, when entering California, Lyon was intercepted by another group of fighter jets. After finding Tony's treasure from the collapsed cave, he flew to the thermosphere in the outer layer of the atmosphere over Afghanistan with his armor. Then accelerate to Mach 30. It only took 20 minutes to travel across half the globe and return to North America. He dropped in altitude over the west coast of the Pacific Ocean, slowed to low supersonic speeds, and flew into California. The Stark family's mansion is located on the west coast of Los Angeles, California. He could get there by crossing the Coast Mountains in California, but because his speed dropped too much and yet not enough, he was photographed by a satellite as soon as he entered the country. On the surveillance screen at the U.S. military base, a figure moving at nearly twice the speed of sound over the mountains caught the operator's attention. After zooming in, they were surprised to find that it was a small flying unit. Although the opponent's image is blurry for some reason covered by the biological force field, but it looks very much like a flying humanoid object. The soldiers immediately reported the situation to their superiors. "What is that? Get in touch with them and ask them to land for inspection. No matter if it's the CIA or the Navy, let's first let this good thing land for us to see," the commander said in a serious tone. "Sir, there's no response from the other side's radio. Sir, the CIA and the Navy just contacted us, asking if that flying object is ours and requesting the handover of intelligence. We have this small, nearly twice the speed of sound, and a long battery life." "Not yet, sir. Go find the Weapons Research Department and ask Colonel Rhodes to come over." "Colonel Rhodes is in Afghanistan looking for Tanissa, sir." "Got him. Then give me the database comparison. Radar lock. Satellite lock. Give me the clearest satellite image." "Report, sir." There is no similar record in the database comparison. The target cross-section is too small and the radar cannot lock. The satellite image is blurred due to unknown interference. "Sir, what should we do?" "WTF? Can anyone tell me what this thing that appeared out of nowhere and is flying over our heads is?" "I don't know, sir." "Damn it. Are there any high-altitude surveillance units in the West Coast Mountains?" "Send them out to shoot this thing down." "Yes, sir." Lyon was originally flying to Los Angeles in boredom and silence. Suddenly his ears moved and he turned sideways to look up. He heard the roar of 4 engines veer off course and approach him. "I was spotted by a satellite," Lyon guessed, slowing down to check the situation. "It's because I'm not fast enough that I was spotted. It's really troublesome. Flying below the speed of sound is too slow, and low supersonic speeds make it easy for satellites to detect anomalies and lock onto them immediately. Maybe next time I should consider flying at speeds above Mach 10. At this time, he heard the voice again. "Target locked." A pilot shouted over the radio. "Missile launcher is ready, waiting for final instructions." The commander at the U.S. military base ordered, "Aim. Shoot. Shoot down that flying object." Global Hawk received. Early warning command received. 4 planes dived from high altitude. Although it was still difficult to close the distance with Lyon, it was enough to hit the target with airborne missiles emission. Missiles were fired one after another, with the speed climbing to over Mach 5 within a few seconds, chasing after Lyon. Lyon turned around and saw through the clouds a missile spewing flames several thousand meters away. It is a powerful weapon capable of destroying any aerial vehicle. But for him now, he can't even scratch his itch. So Lyon suddenly had an urge to stop and catch the missile and then walk out of the fire without a speck of dust, shocking the eyes of the American soldiers. As the saying goes, having a body of steel but not showing off is like wearing fine clothes walking at night. Showing off is a deep desire engraved in human genes. Abraham Maslow once listed the need to show off at the 4th level of the 5 levels of human needs. When people are well fed and have no life-threatening conditions, and have some social interactions, they will naturally want to show off. Lyon cannot escape from this worldly desire, but he thought about it. In the next period of time, Tony will definitely make a new armor and show it off after he comes back. There is a scene in the movie where Tony fails in showing off and is bombed by U.S. military planes. So he should just pretend now. It would be better to wait until Tony is full of confidence but gets slapped in the face by the U.S. military before making his debut. That would be more satisfying. After all, only by showing off in front of good brothers can you gain the highest level of psychological satisfaction. Just thinking about the expression Tony would have at that time. Lyon couldn't help but grin. Now that he has superhuman powers, he doesn't want to act like a Chinese and say he doesn't eat beef. He just wants to continue to improve his strength, and then do something that makes him happy in the process of improving his strength. For example, act in front of Tony in a way that Tony wants to act but can't. Think of this. Lyon looked up at the missiles coming from above the thick clouds. With a thought, he instantly increased his speed to Mach 20 and disappeared from the lock of the U.S. military satellite. What the hell? The target disappeared. The pilot said in horror. Report. The missile did not hit the target. The target is lost. Repeat, the target is lost. It seems to have an invisible function. In the U.S. military base, the commander was stunned for a moment. What? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Continue to search the entire area. You must find the enemy for me. There was a sudden commotion in the command room. It can be predicted that the entire Ministry of National Defense will be suspicious and uneasy for some time to come. Chapter 8 Stark returns. Welcome back, Master Lyon. Long time no see. As soon as Lyon returned home, Jarvis' voice rang out. Jarvis is an artificial intelligence created by Tony, named after Edwin Jarvis, the old butler of the Stark family. It's been half a year since we last met, Jarvis. Lyon walked towards his bedroom. When I entered space half a year ago, because he would spend most of his time sleeping and the spacecraft was built in a hurry. Therefore, there is no Jarvis subroutine on manned spacecraft. Now hearing Jarvis' voice again, Lyon suddenly felt a sense of relaxation as if he had returned home. Jarvis, I have good news. Tony has been rescued by me from the terrorist organization. Is Pepper in the company at this time? Please tell her so that she doesn't have to worry anymore. Lyon instructed Jarvis in his room as he took off his pants and entered the shower room. He hadn't taken a shower with water for half a year, and the cleaning process on the spacecraft was hard to describe. Master Lyon, Miss Pepper received the news that the young master was rescued 10 minutes ago and is now waiting at the airport. Jarvis replied. So fast? I didn't expect the garrison base to be so efficient. Lyon muttered. It's enough for Pepper to know. She must have been worried sick over the past few months. It's Tony's fault for not being careful. I've reminded him so many times, but he never takes it seriously. That's great. Calculating the time, I should have just gone to space when he went to Afghanistan to deliver food. I told you that Obadiah was watching you, but he didn't believe it. But Obadiah is really powerful. He can find the best time to attack. As soon as he saw Tony and I separated, he decisively attacked. Jarvis listened quietly to Lyon's complaints. Lyon did not say these blaming words in front of Tony. After all, Tony has suffered enough because of his arrogance this time, and he doesn't need him to add fuel to the fire with a few more criticisms. People who have just escaped from danger need their families' jokes to dispel their psychological trauma. Master Lyon, you just said that Obadiah planned the attack on Mr. Stark. Jarvis suddenly interrupted. Do you need me to pass this message to Mr. Stark and remind him to pay attention? No, I've already told him. When he returns, we will deal with Obadiah's problem. Lyon put foam on his hair. Also, Jarvis, why do you always call Tony young master or Mr. Stark? Shouldn't I be the young master? And I'm also Stark. Tony is so old, it's more appropriate to call him old master. I'm sorry, Master Lyon, I have been serving Mr. Stark since before the 90s. Before you came into this family, I used to call Mr. Stark young master. I can change the name next time if you wish. That's not necessary, just call me like you are now. Lyon began to rinse off the foam. He felt that Jarvis probably had developed human emotions. Otherwise, how could he have such a thing as habits? Maybe in the future he can help Jarvis evolve into a truly intelligent life, instead of being killed by Tony's son Ultron like in the movie. Lyon quickly finished showering and changed into a slim-fitting gray suit. He wiped his hair with a towel and walked out of the room. Jarvis, help me prepare some food. I'm feeling a little hungry. Leon walked to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator door, which was empty. Haha, that's to be expected. Jarvis, please help me order takeout. It was already morning in Los Angeles. The whole city just woke up from sleep and started its whole day. Lyon's takeaway was quickly delivered to the mansion. He couldn't wait to sit at the table and start eating. After eating bread and nutrient solution for half a year in space, the taste in his mouth had become so bland that birds could be born. Tasting the delicious taste of grease and carbohydrates again, he couldn't help but eat for 2 hours. Jarvis, order me a cheeseburger takeout. No, order 10. Jarvis, order 10 pizzas, 1 of each flavor. Wait, 3 of the cheese flavor with the highest calories. Jarvis, order 5 beef Wellingtons. The meal lasted until noon. After having a good meal and a good drink, Leon sat on the sofa in the hall, patting his belly with satisfaction, which was not bulging at all. Satisfied, very satisfied. No wonder Tony likes cheeseburgers. Eating food with high calorie content makes people feel happy. Lyon was filled with emotion. He suddenly felt that perhaps the biggest advantage of having a body of steel for him was that he could not gain weight no matter how much he ate. No matter how much calories or fat he eats, they can only be transformed into nutrients to make his body stronger. This is simply gospel for him, a Chinese soul who loves food. Taking a bite of the last cheeseburger, Leon felt so satisfied that he seemed to understand the solemn and sacred mood in piety. Jarvis, let me see the unanswered communications from the past 6 months. Lyon said. Okay, Master Leon. A series of information windows popped up on the flat plate in front of Leon. Jarvis summarized in a very methodical manner. You currently have a total of 1,634 unread messages on WeChat and 807 emails in your mailbox. Among them, 74% of the messages were from your high school classmates, 89% were from girls, and 93% were messages with erotic tendencies. Leon was speechless. These people are really blinded by money. Are there men who send me messages like that? Okay, ignore emails from people you don't know. Okay, Master Leon, you currently have no unread messages. Leon clapped his hands. Perfect. Jarvis, now tell me about the development of the company in the past 6 months. By the way, it's the company under my name. When Tony developed the smartphone 2 years ago, Lyon also used the resources at hand to establish an internet company, Stark Network. Anyway, at the beginning of the 21st century, the internet sector in the United States was also booming. Moreover, it has only been a few years since the internet bubble ended, and this field has not yet been occupied by other larger capitals. Since there are large pieces of cake that have not been discovered, they are just there waiting to be divided up. Then why can't he be the one who eats the cake? There are the resources of Stark Group. Lyon brought many internet applications that would not be available until 20 years later to the market within a year. He founded WeChat and Twitter, acquired Amazon and YouTube. He even did not let go of Porn Station, and he created it and registered a company before that group of people in Canada. Today, Stark Network has more than 200 million users worldwide. Lyon slept in space for half a year, but the company's market value quietly doubled. However, his disappearance some time ago and Tony's disappearance caused the rising stock price to plummet by nearly half. After listening to Jarvis' report, Leon smacked his lips. Although the stock price has dropped by half in a month, it is still higher than when I left. This is a really nice surprise. The current president of the company is old Joe, right? Tell him that he has done a good job and give him 3 days off to rest. Okay, Master Lyon, I'll send a notice to Mr. Joe Bush right away. Jarvis responded and suggested, but I think Mr. Bush might want you to agree to add an external home button function to his smartphone more than a vacation. Lyon was speechless. Oh my god, he is still obsessed with that useless function that is like adding feet to a snake. Tony has developed ultra-thin full-touch screen mobile phones. The next step is projection phones and projection glasses. Why is Steve Jobs still immersed in his retro obsession? Jarvis, tell him to bury his obsession in the ground and take a good rest for a few days. Don't be as conservative as Aunt Susan next door. Okay, Master Lyon. Jarvis agreed, but it seems that there is no lady named Susan next door to us. That's a metaphor, Jarvis, a figure of speech, Lyon emphasized. I see. Jarvis' voice paused, and there was a slight electric sound as if he was taking notes. Lyon took the Hirasaka and said, by the way, Jarvis, Tony should be back in Los Angeles between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. There is still so much time. Please play Superman for me. Okay, now let's play the 1979 movie Superman. It turns out that you like watching nostalgic movies just like Mrs. Susan. Jarvis put what he learned into practice. Who is Susan? Oh, you learn so quickly. Lyon's mouth twitched. The time comes in the afternoon. Tony returned to Los Angeles. First, he looked at Pepper affectionately. Then he immediately turned around and bought 2 cheeseburgers. He then returned and went to Stark Industries to hold a press conference. After Lyon's repeated emphasis, Tony had already developed deep doubts about Obadiah. So when Obadiah showed up, he hugged him warmly and politely asked him for a burger. Tony chose to refuse decisively. Sorry, I only have this burger in my hand. I can't share it with you, Tony said as he took out another burger from his pocket. Lyon was watching the live broadcast on TV at home. KNKV TV station is broadcasting the live footage simultaneously on the internet and TV. Tony Stark was rescued from Afghanistan, which was a big event that shocked the whole of Los Angeles. As soon as the news came out, it became a global trending search on Twitter, attracting tens of millions of people to enter the live broadcast room to watch. At the same time, Stark Group's stock price has been rising. Just as it had fallen precipitously before, it is now soaring rapidly. Just because Tony Stark is back alive. It's as if his name alone is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. All stock investors are excited. This is a surefire way to enter the market and make money. Until in the live broadcast room, Tony squatted in front of the podium and said a lot of words like meat eaters are despicable. Then he stood up, walked to the podium, and spoke with great solemnity. I declare that from now on, the weapons department of Stark Group will be permanently closed. Tony was extremely serious. I need to seriously consider the future of this company. Let this group create greater benefits for the world. Boom. Everyone at the scene and all the netizens in the live broadcast room were shocked at this moment. The scene was noisy and bustling, and every reporter was trying to put the microphone to Tony's mouth, asking him what had motivated him to make such a decision. There are all kinds of words in the live broadcast room. Some people cannot believe it. Some people laugh at the capitalists, but some will eventually feel guilty. But more people are the investors who have just bought stocks and are cursing on the screen. Tony is really decisive. There is no buffer at all. The market value of the subsidiary is going to fall again. Lying on the sofa, Lyon raised the milk in his hand to Tony on TV. But this is his style. Master Lyon, you seemed to have known that Tony would do this, Jarvis asked. Of course, this is what I wanted him to do 2 years ago. Lyon turned over and sat up, picked up a piece of fruit on the table and put it into his mouth. He'll be back soon. I have to go get ready. By the way, has Mark's armor been cleaned out? You can give Tony a surprise, Jarvis. Lyon pushed open the door and walked down the stairs. Jarvis responded, as per your arrangement, the armor has been repaired on the mechanical arm console. You can take him there when Mr. Stark returns. Chapter 9 Dinner Party. In the evening, in the basement laboratory of Stark's mansion, Tony rubbed his chin with his palm, staring at his Mark armor back and forth. He has been in this state for a long time. Beside him, Lyon was struggling to hold back his laughter. So, why did you dye it pink? Tony finally spoke, pointing at the Mark armor that had turned into a girlish pink color with an expressionless face. Well, Lyon immediately stopped smiling, put his hands behind his back and looked serious. This is a surprise that Jarvis carefully prepared for you. He stepped forward and pointed to the spot on the chest of the armor where the energy core was placed. There is a small circle of faintly visible English words engraved on it. Lyon reads out, "Tony has a pink heart." He winked at Tony and said, "How about it? Are you touched?" Pink represents innocence and kindness. Jarvis is praising you. Humph. Thank you for clearing up my confusion, otherwise I really wouldn't have thought of it. Tony pursed his lips and sneered. His face turned black, and he couldn't believe how beautiful the scene would be when he put on this armor again. I'm afraid that before he can even make a move, the enemy will die of laughter when they see the circle of English words on his chest, and they won't even have to save on ammunition. Tony took a deep breath. Some words stuck in his chest and he couldn't say them, which made his face slightly red. Lyon looked at Tony's wonderful expression change and almost couldn't help laughing out loud. Finally, Tony turned his head away and stopped looking at his precious armor. "Jarvis, why dye her pink?" Tony asked another main culprit. He really liked his first set of armor and even called it her. "Sir, this is Master Lyon's suggestion. He said that you will be happier when you see the armor repaired and dyed pink." Jarvis seemed to be explaining, but in fact he was secretly complaining. "Oh, wait, Jarvis, you didn't object at the time. We all thought so, didn't we?" Lyon dragged Jarvis into the water. "Master Lyon, please forgive my offense. You know that artificial intelligence does not have its own thoughts. Only artificial idiots have no thoughts. Jarvis, you reminded Tony when he was dating Cover Girl that Pepper would be angry. It's normal for you to want to prepare a surprise for Tony now." Tony's face became more and more unsightly. "Enough," he shouted, glancing helplessly at Lyon, who had already laughed out loud. "Don't think I don't know you're taking revenge." Lyon didn't refute. "So you also know that it's wrong for me to run back to the cave and carry the armor back for you?" Tony spread his hands and said, all right, I give up. Let's end this matter here. I'm not angry, and don't torture me because of that little thing anymore." Tony has been tortured by Lyon over the past decade. He has become accustomed to the self-emotional regulation that is necessary when facing naughty children as a guardian. Of course, Tony only thinks that Lyon is naughty. To others, Lyon is a very nice person. For example, when they were kids, Lyon hated Tony for always bringing home new cover girls. Several times when Tony was about to take up his gun and mount his horse, he would play the sweet words Tony had said to other girls at the loudest volume outside the door. Then the girl who was hugging Tony became angry and slammed the door and left. He popped out from the corner again, waved his little hand and said, "Good night, sweet dreams tonight, Tony." Tony blushed and chased Lyon around the room with a pillow. After hearing Tony's complaints the next day, Pepper happily gave Lyon a lot of pocket money on the spot. However, Lyon only did this for half a month. Because half a month later, Tony's new customized soundproof bedroom was completed. After that, even if Lyon was dancing outside the house, Tony could play a Mozart piece in the house to create a quiet atmosphere and spend a wonderful night with the beautiful woman. A fight like this. The two started dating when Lyon was 3 years old and continued until he started inviting girls home after he entered high school. The night when Lyon took the girl home for the first time, the two, one big and one small, looked at each other and smiled knowingly. So the two brothers reached a reconciliation. However, the confrontation in other aspects has not stopped. Sometimes Tony caused trouble for Lyon, and sometimes Lyon took the initiative. Pepper's comment was that these were two children who never grew up. Jarvis, take this armor away and repaint it, or I never want to see her again. Tony waved his hand and said, please help me purchase some materials. I want to build a new battle armor. The conditions in the cave are poor, and the armor I made can't bring out my strength. Lyon, this time I will show you that my armor is not a toy. Lyon shrugged indifferently. It's up to you, I'll just wait and see. At this time, several intelligent robotic arms including Day-Day and Ben-Ben in the laboratory came over and worked together to push the pink armor out. Lyon even lent a hand. He asked Jarvis to spray paint the armor just to amuse Tony, but he never thought that Tony would actually wear it. But what he didn't expect was when he visited Tony's suit collection room 10 years later. This armor with the most bizarre style was displayed at the forefront of Tony's Mark armors. We are going to start making the armor now. When Lyon looked back again, Tony did what he said and cleared the desk with a slap, ready to start a new round of work. Could it be that you can't wait to prove yourself now? Watch your words, Lyon. Tony doesn't need to prove himself, he only challenges himself, Tony said. Okay, then when you challenge yourself, remember to come up before dinner. Lyon walked towards the stairs of the laboratory. To celebrate your safe escape, Pepper plans to hold a family party. Ethan and Rod will come. Rhodes is Tony's good friend in the military, and their relationship is so good in the movie that he even gave Rhodes the Iron Man suit. Just the two of us. No problem, as long as I'm not the one cooking, everything is acceptable. Tony replied without even looking up. Ever since the last time he cooked a grilled sea bass that was all charred and Lyon laughed at him for a long time, he vowed never to enter the kitchen again. After Pepper dealt with the mess Tony left at the press conference, she rushed to the mansion. She excitedly hugged Lyon gently in the hall. Lyon! Oh my God, I can't believe Tony when he said you're back. The Mark spaceship is still flying outside the Earth. The spaceship that Tony built himself was named Mark Space. And you actually flew back by yourself. It's incredible. Wow, my God, your body is so strong now. You are like two different people compared to half a year ago. Pepper patted Lyon's chest, the marble-like texture causing her to cover her mouth and exclaim, if I had known you were so strong, I would have contacted you a few months ago. Then Tony wouldn't have. As she spoke, she felt a little guilty. Lyon quickly comforted, it's okay, Pepper, you're also afraid that I'll worry, right? If I hadn't become as strong as Superman, even if you told me the news of Tony's disappearance, I would have been helpless in the lonely universe. If we say that Tony is both a brother and a half-old man to Lyon, Pepper, who brought him up since childhood, can be said to be half a sister and half a foster mother. Lyon blinked and said, besides, although the process was a bit tortuous for Tony since he survived the disaster, it may not be a bad thing, right? You think so? But I think he has become a little irrational. Pepper frowned. Perhaps you don't quite understand Tony after his near-death experience. Lyon pushed Pepper towards the kitchen. Come on, Pepper, you still have to make dinner. I'll tell you about Tony's wonderful adventure this time. A few hours later, the dinner ended successfully with all the guests enjoying themselves. Through Tony's introduction, Ethan met Pepper and Rod and successfully integrated into this small circle. For a long time to come, Ethan will work in Stark's R&D department and do what he wants. At the dinner table, Tony also expressed his desire to do something more beneficial to the world. Unfortunately, Rhodes couldn't quite understand this for the time being. Chapter 10 Obadiah and 039's Fastest Exit. As the night deepened, the tipsy Rod and Ethan were picked up. Pepper, Tony, and Lyon were the only ones left in the mansion. After having a good meal and a drink, Lyon sat on the sofa, looking at the rising and falling sea level outside the window, his mind wandering. Tony looked at Pepper, who was cleaning up the dishes in the kitchen, and then at Lyon, who was in a daze. He seemed to be hesitant to speak, and his expression made it seem as if he was trying to hide something. "Hey, Lyon." He finally couldn't help but called Lyon. "Huh? What for?" Lyon looked away, a little confused. Tony glanced at Pepper and said, "Didn't you say you were going to see Obadiah tonight? When are you leaving? Also, don't let Pepper know for now, or she'll say it's too dangerous and she'll resign if we go." Normally, no matter how Tony messed around, Pepper would just keep a sullen face and continue working. But whenever it comes to Tony's safety, Pepper's most common threat to stop Tony is to resign, even though every threat she made was ineffective. Then let's wait until Pepper leaves. Lyon glanced in the direction of Stark Industries and said casually, "Anyway, Obadiah is still in the industrial park." "Wait, he's now, damn it, Tony, let's go there now." Lyon grabbed Tony and pushed him out. He did not forget to shout towards the kitchen, "Pepper, Tony and I are going out for a walk and we'll be back later." Okay," Pepper responded. As he was leaving, Tony lowered his voice and asked, Wait, what did you just see that made you so anxious?" "Obadiah is contacting his Afghan friends." Lyon also lowered his voice. "What?" Tony was stunned, and then Lyon grabbed his arm and flew into the sky. The two soon arrived at Stark Industrial Park. At this time, only a few lights were on in the office building. Among them, Obadiah's office was brightly lit, like a burning torch at night. Lyon floats with Tony outside Obadiah's office window. The huge floor-to-ceiling windows allowed them to see every corner inside clearly. At this moment, Obadiah was sitting at his desk with his back to the window, talking to the computer screen. "He's on a video call with someone from a terrorist organization?" Tony's face didn't look good. "Can you hear what he's talking about? It's not a good thing. You can come and listen to it yourself." Lyon placed his hand on the gap of the French window and shook it gently. A corner of the glass lifted up, which he grabbed and flipped back, so the entire floor-to-ceiling window was removed silently. Tony's eyes widened in shock again. But the next second, a voice came from the office, leaving him no time to pay attention. "Our leader died because of your commission, so before the next cooperation, you must compensate us," said the person on the other side of the computer. Obadiah angrily retorted, "You let Tony get away. And you have the nerve to ask me for compensation. I told your leader to make sure that Tony Stark's body was gone. How did he do it, huh? That has nothing to do with us. If you don't pay compensation, we will expose what you did to Tony Stark." The terrorists used their usual tactics. Obadiah's eyes grew colder, as if he wished to eat the person in front of him alive. "Aren't you afraid that I will stop providing you with arms and weapons? Sorry, now that Tony Stark has shut down the weapons department, I'm afraid you're of little use." Terrorists are emboldened. Threatened again. "Will you accept the compensation? If you don't, I believe Tony Stark is also willing to pay for the information about the real murderer." Obadiah's lips were tightly closed, and the corners of his lips twitched to hide his anger. A few seconds later, he suddenly burst into laughter, his smile as bright as spring breeze. "Okay. Of course. I accept your request for compensation, but I have one condition." "You say?" Upon hearing that he could get compensation, the other party immediately became excited. "I will find a way to get Tony to go abroad again. This time, you must kill him for me." Obadiah said the plan. "I will give you a batch of Stark arms, and you will use them to attract media attention." Tony just announced the closure of the weapons department. Now that weapons produced by Stark Corporation are appearing on the battlefield in large quantities, he will definitely be unable to sit still. The terrorist continued, "I know. Leave the rest to us. I promise that the 10 rings will perfectly complete our friend's commission this time." Obadiah smiled and turned off the video call. "That would be great." With a beep, the video was disconnected. Obadiah sat silently in the chair. The smile on his face gradually cooled and then became ferocious. His anger began to erupt. Even when he was sitting still, one could feel that he would burst out of his workstation and devour anyone at any time. Idiots. A bunch of idiots. After a long silence, Obadiah finally exploded. He suddenly stood up, swept everything on the table to the ground, snatched the mouse off and smashed it against the wall, breaking it into pieces. They even let a playboy get away with it. What a bunch of rubbish. He roared, his roar shaking the windows. Lyon glanced out the window at Tony, who was glaring at him, and knew that Obadiah's performance was over. He took a step forward, leading Tony into the room. He said politely, "Well, how should I put it? Sorry to interrupt." A sudden voice behind him stopped Obadiah's roar abruptly. "Who?" To Tony. He instantly broke out in a cold sweat and turned around, and standing opposite him were Tony and Lyon. Among them, Lyon looked unhappy. Tony stared at him with red eyes. Those always beautiful eyes were now filled with disbelief and anger at being betrayed by someone close to them. "Tony, and I heard what you just said." Lyon pointed at the computer. "Do you have anything else to say?" There was visible panic on Obadiah's face, but he was a thoughtful man and quickly suppressed his emotions. He raised his hands, the corners of his mouth trembling. "Oh, Lyon, why are you still here so late? What happened just now was a misunderstanding. Listen to me. There is a reason for all this." Obadiah's mind was racing at this moment. He put down one hand awkwardly and opened the drawer. "This is because there is a force that I cannot resist, threatening my life and asking me to kill you all." As Obadiah was talking, he suddenly pulled out a pistol from the drawer, quickly loaded it, and pointed it at Tony and the other man. "Put your hands up and stand back." Obadiah, who was as gentle as an elder just now, turned into a ferocious villain in the blink of an eye. "You'd better stop now." Tony pursed his lips tightly, raised his hand first, stood in front of Lyon, and stepped back. "Humph, Tony, you still want to protect that little bastard. What a touching family love." Obadiah's words made Tony even angrier. He said in a cold voice, "Oh, by Obadiah, I thought you were one of the people I could trust the most." "Really, Tony, I'm really touched by what you said." Obadiah pointed the gun at Tony. "I also want to play this wonderful family game with you. But since you've already discovered it, there's no need for me to hide it. Tony, you are actually just my goose that lays golden eggs. You know, I founded this company with your father, and I have been assisting you for the past 30 years, but I got nothing. Even the outsider behind you can get half of the company, but what about me? Only by killing you, killing both of you, can I get everything I want." Obadiah waved his fist in pain as he spoke. "Everything should have been like this. As long as you, Tony, died in Afghanistan, Lyon would also die in outer space. But why did you run away? Why did you have to see everything that happened tonight?" His eyes were bloodshot, and he used his gun to force Tony to retreat. "You forced me to do this. You pushed me into a desperate situation, so I will destroy everything, and no one can stop me." Tony was staring at his uncle from beginning to end, his cheeks tense and his eyes filled with indescribable grief and anger. The muzzle of the gun pushed his head back and he finally closed his eyes. "Go ahead, Lyon." He no longer had any expectations. "As you say, boss." Lyon's voice just fell. Obadiah's neck was tightly grasped by a large hand like an iron clamp, which lifted him up. "You drink." Cough, cough. Obadiah's face quickly turned red due to lack of oxygen. His eyes bulged as he stared at Lyon, completely unable to comprehend what had just happened in that brief moment. Why didn't he even blink? Lyon, who was behind Tony, appeared in front of him and subdued him. He raised his arms with difficulty, trying to struggle again. But Lyon just glanced at him, tossed him out of the window without caring. 3 seconds later, a heavy sound of footfall was heard outside the window. "It sounds like Obadiah has fallen to peanut butter. Why bother?" Lyon sighed, walked to the desk, connected the phone to the data cable, and then plugged it into the computer. The computers of Stark Industries executives are generally not connected to the internet, so if you want to hack into them you have to connect manually. Like what Obadiah did just now, directly connecting to the external network to make a video call is already a serious violation. Jarvis, hack into this computer, collect evidence of Obadiah's crimes, hand it over to the police, and note that he committed suicide out of fear of punishment. He jumped to his death. Okay, Master Lyon. After arranging the task for Jarvis, Lyon turned around and saw Tony still standing there, but looking a little dejected. He walked over and patted Tony on the shoulder. It's all over. Go back and have a good sleep. Or maybe you can date a few more cover girls this week to relax. Tony's grief-stricken expression froze for a few seconds, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You kid. Chapter 11 Pepper and 039's request. Obadiah Stanny, the COO of Stark Corporation, fell to his death in Stark Industrial Park 3 days ago. According to the official investigation results, Obadiah Stanislav's death was not caused by someone else, but was a suicide out of fear of punishment. Police announced. Stanny has repeatedly conducted arms deals with foreign terrorist forces in his personal capacity, and committed multiple murders, interfering in the internal affairs of other countries and other serious crimes, including the attack on Tony Stark, the president of Stark Group, a few months ago, which was also done by Obadiah Stanny. For more detailed reports, we are now contacting reporters on the front line. Lyon was doing horse stance in the hall, watching the news and stuffing a piece of cheese pizza into his mouth. It's really great now. The stock that just went up after I appeared in the company the day before yesterday has to fall again. It's like a roller coaster. Lyon was being sarcastic to himself. Although this has no impact on me, I still feel sorry for the shareholders who supported Stark. He thought about it, opened Twitter, and posted a status. The incident with Obadiah was just an accident. The Stark Group is irreconcilable with evil. Please continue to believe in Stark Group and support Stark Group's stocks. You will surely wait for the day when you will return with a full load. Stark never lets its supporters down. The post was accompanied by a picture of leftover pizza on the table. So a few seconds later, the comment section under his post exploded. Hundreds of abusive comments appeared immediately as if a house had been bought on Twitter. Look at that Obadiah. How can such a person be the COO? Stark Group is doomed. It's all bullshit. I bought stocks when Tony Stark came back, and then he shut down the weapons department and made me lose half my fortune. I bought shares after Lyon Stark showed up after half a year, but 2 days later it was revealed that the COO was a super criminal. I can already foresee myself begging on the streets of Los Angeles in a month. Damn Stark, you made me lose everything. Then more comments popped up every second, all from frustrated investors who complained that they were out of their minds for buying Stark stock. Lyon felt a little embarrassed when he saw the comments section with 999 plus comments in just 1 minute. Well, it seems that Stark's shareholders all have their own ideas. Forget it. I believe that everyone will have a bright future, safe and happy. At this time, Pepper came over with a cup of coffee and asked, I seemed to hear you praying for the stock investors just now. Not really. Lyon looked at Pepper's expression and had a bad feeling. But Pepper continued to talk. Honestly, Lyon, if you really want them to avoid suffering such a huge loss, you should go and call up Tony, who has disappeared for 3 days. Then you can go back to your chair in your own company and make money instead of leaving everything to me. Pepper was a little manic when she talked about her work because the burden on her shoulders was too heavy. I don't know what Tony is doing. Obadiah has committed so many crimes that he deserves death, and you stay at home basking in the sun every day. How can I do all the work by myself? She complained very quickly. Stark Industries, Stark Network, Stark Electronics. Even if I had 3 heads, I couldn't handle so many things. And you, Lyon, you actually have the leisure to pray for the stockholders. Pepper became more and more angry as she spoke, and shoved the coffee in her hand at Lyon. Oh my god, now I realize how crazy I have been these past few days. Lyon, I demand that you tell Tony that if he doesn't get out of that damn lab, I'm going to quit. And you, Lyon, my boy, if you don't manage your own internet company, I will quit as well. After saying that, Pepper angrily warned Lyon with a serious look, turned around and walked out the door with her high heels clacking. She had to go to that damn class again. Lyon opened his mouth on the sofa. He wanted to say a few nice words to get Pepper to hold on. But it seems a bit too much to let Pepper make all the decisions for the three companies. He scratched his head. Maybe I should go back to the company. No, how can I even think of going to work? Damn it. What I should do is get old Joe to stop his vacation and get back to work. Yes, that's it. Lyon clapped his hands and asked Jarvis, Jarvis, is Joe Bush still on vacation? Please inform him and let him go back to work as soon as possible. I'm sorry, Master Lyon. Jarvis said, in fact, Mr. Joe Bush's vacation just ended yesterday, and he returned to work at 4 o'clock this morning. 4 o'clock? 4 o'clock in the morning? Lyon exclaimed. It turns out that I misunderstood. Old Joe is really the best president in the world. If I have the chance in the future, I will definitely set up a World Outstanding CEO award and give the award to Joe every year. You said now that old Joe is on the job, Pepper shouldn't be angry anymore, right? This question made Jarvis silent for a few seconds. Master Lyon, I'm afraid not. Because Mr. Joe Bush is only in charge of Stark Electronic Technology and handles part of the Stark network work on his behalf. The rest of the work is still done by Miss Pepper. Lyon thought thoughtfully, is that so? When I left half a year ago, this was indeed the arrangement, but Tony would also participate in the management of the company at that time. Jarvis, do you have any suggestions? Master Lyon, in order to prevent Miss Pepper from resigning, I suggest that you return to work temporarily and wait until you find a successor president and then go home to continue basking in the sun. Lyon immediately shook his head. No, sunbathing is the most important thing. We can't delay it. Besides, I haven't just been basking in the sun these days. You know what I've been doing. 3 days ago, Lyon asked Jarvis to collect all the fighting tutorials on the internet. After a few days of study, he has mastered most of the fighting techniques. Jeet Kune Do, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, Judo, mixed martial arts, Bajikwan. But the more he learned, the more Lyon found that his control over strength had become stronger, but his fighting ability had hardly increased. This makes the fighting technique seem rather useless. Think about the world we live in now. Anyone he could beat could be killed with just one slap. If you can't win, even if you use all your strength, you may not be able to withstand a single move from your opponent. These fighting skills are only useful when fighting against an enemy of equal strength. But there are very few people who can match his strength. Odin counts as one, the Purple Potato Spirit counts as one, Captain Marvel counts as one, and there are really only a handful of them. But your fighting skills have reached their limit. There is no point in continuing to practice. Jarvis suggested again, so why not go back to work? This way you can make Miss Pepper happy and you can have a fulfilling day. Jarvis, why do you seem to really want me to go to work? Lyon was stunned. He thought of something. Ah, I see. You are protesting me for dragging you into this in front of Tony 3 days ago. You're so good, Jarvis. You still say you don't have subjective thoughts, but you've already started to have the grudge-holding emotions of a human. The light ball of Jarvis on the screen flashed. Master Lyon, I will not do anything that is harmful to you. But you would encourage me to do things that would hinder my becoming stronger and make me unhappy. Lyon spread his hands. He thought for a moment and said, how about this? I'll go downstairs and call Tony up, and then I'll find a president for the company, and then all the troubles will be gone. As you wish. Jarvis was still considerate. Chapter 12. Who is the wisdom of mortals? When Leon entered the laboratory, he found that there was nothing special except a few arc reactors and a stack of DC comics on Tony's desk. Even Tony isn't here. Tony? He looked around. Where are you? Leon's super hearing isn't always on. Just like Superman in the movies. He has to concentrate and let his brain block out most external information in order to live in a quiet world. When he got no response, Leon tilted his ear slightly, looking for Tony's movements. So it's in the garage. But why does it sound a bit noisy? When Leon found Tony in the basement, he had dark circles under his eyes, but he looked very energetic. He was wearing mechanical shoes with exposed wires, holding controllers in both hands, and directing those little assistants. Stupid, you continue to record the video. Data, you move over there. Right over there. You are responsible for putting out the fire. Then Tony stood in the center of his makeshift experimental platform and took a few deep breaths. Okay, let's try it. First, activate 10% of the thrust and prepare for takeoff. Tony shook his shoulders and took a deep breath to adjust his condition. Come on, 3, 2, 1. He pressed the control device in his hand, and a powerful jet of flame suddenly spurted out from the iron shoes under his feet. Laugh! Exclamation! The violent thrust sent Tony flying into the air. Then it hit the ceiling heavily with a thud, and it was obviously a pretty serious hit. Oh! Tony screamed in pain and fell to the ground. The intelligent robotic arm nearby determined that the situation met the instructions and immediately released the fire spray. Oh, that must be painful. Leon sighed as he looked at Tony, who was covered in white spray, and tilted his head back. Leon? Tony turned his head when he heard the voice, his cheeks squeezed together in pain, and he twisted his shoulders on the ground. Come and help me. I'm afraid my ribs are going to be broken. Here it comes. Maybe next time you can ask Data to prepare a crash pad for you. Leon stepped forward and lifted Tony onto the chair. He glanced up and down and said, Very good, it's just a superficial injury. You can continue to do the extreme exercise you just did. That's not an extreme sport. Tony rolled his eyes. That's me making the Mark Roman 2 armor. You mean your second set of armor is this pair of shoes? Do you want others to shoot at your shoes? Don't joke, these shoes are not Captain America's shield. Leon teased. Of course not. I am currently experimenting with a propulsion system. Once this step is completed, the efficiency will be greatly improved. Tony immediately retorted, not forgetting to mock, of course. Ordinary people like you with average grades basically can't understand the logic here. Now it was Leon's turn to roll his eyes. After all, I was admitted to Columbia University. Do you have some misunderstandings about ordinary people? Oh, really? There's nothing I can do about it. When I was your age, I had already graduated from MIT many years ago and had 3 doctorates from Cambridge. I really can't understand the feelings of ordinary people. Tony waved his hands, but they should be similar. When you go to Columbia, you will find that your teachers can't understand my armor either. Well, I'm sorry, but my university major is business, and my teacher can probably understand the economic benefits of your armor. Before Leon had his awakened abilities, he could only develop in the direction of managing a company, so he naturally applied for a business major in college. But now it's different. He knocked on Tony's iron shoes. Besides, the past was the past, and the present is the present. Don't forget what kind of ability I awakened. Ability? What ability? Isn't it just getting stronger by basking in the sun? Tony wondered. It's Superman's ability. Leon emphasized. I have everything Superman has. So, are you going to confess to me that you are actually a Kryptonian? Yesterday, your Kryptonian father, who has become a super artificial intelligence, came to your house and asked you to put on red shorts and save the world. Tony said with an exaggerated expression. Or did your Kryptonian cousin receive a signal from the spacecraft and come to arrest you tomorrow? So you come to me for help now? Leon was speechless. Tony, when did you have so many childish guesses? Of course I am from Earth. You took me for medical examinations so many times when I was a child, and you still don't know. Lyon is undoubtedly an Earthling. 19 years ago, he traveled to this world as a baby. By chance, he was adopted by the Starks. Although I have no memory before the age of 1, I don't know whether I have biological parents in this life. But his appearance was not much different from his previous life, and his blood tests had never shown any unexpected results since he was a child. All of these prove that he is a native of Earth. Also, you've been reading too many DC comics recently. There's no DC darkness in our world. Lyon complained. So what do you want to say? Tony tilted his head. I mean, Superman has a super brain, and I have the same thing. The super brain will enable him to achieve more in engineering and even reach the top very easily. Lyon pointed at the iron shoes and said, So now I can fully understand your research and even surpass you. Surpass me? Tony raised his chin directly. Lyon, this year's April Fool's Day has passed. You can save this cold joke for next year. He rolled his eyes, and I don't remember Superman having this ability. If he has a super brain, would he always rush up and punch his enemies in the comics? Lyon smacked his lips. Maybe his super brain told him that he should learn to trust his superpower before facing difficulties. That's just a reckless brain, isn't it? Tony concluded. So you still don't understand my suit. Lyon didn't want to argue anymore. Stop it. This meaningless argument ends here. People like you who only read half of the comics are the most annoying. Go finish reading Superman's comics before you refute me. Without waiting for Tony to argue, he said directly, You, a mortal with wisdom, since you say that I can't understand your armor, do you dare to let me learn from you? Lyon raised a finger. It only takes 1 day, and your knowledge will become my knowledge. And in 3 days, I will create a better armor than yours. What did you say? Now Tony is no longer sleepy. What he can't stand the most is others' provocation in his professional field. Especially when the provocation came from his stupid little brother. That's literally the funniest joke I heard in 2008. It was as if the pain in his chest disappeared in an instant. Tony jumped off the bed and looked directly into Lyon's eyes. I accept your challenge. He issued a victory declaration. Mortal wisdom? I will return this title to you in 3 days. Follow me. He waved his hand, returned to the experimental site, and began to command the intelligent robotic arm. Data, go clean up the site. Ben, go get the materials. Everyone else, wait for me to design a new jet structure. Lyon narrowed his eyes and looked at Tony in front of him, who was full of fighting spirit, and the desire to win in his heart also burned. Jarvis, send all the knowledge related to exoskeleton armor to my Stark pad. I need to understand Tony's design drawings within half an hour. Okay, Master Lyon. Jarvis agreed first. Then it asked again, But, Master Lyon, do you still remember the purpose of your visit to Tony and MS? Pepper's previous request. Power. What's wrong with Pepper? Leave it alone for now. Lyon twisted his arm. Today I will let Tony know what a super brain is. Chapter 13 Your knowledge is mine now. Tony began to conceive the design with full of fighting spirit, while not forgetting to observe Lyon beside him. He paid close attention and found that what Lyon was learning was actually the most basic mechanical structure. So he couldn't help but smile in advance, showing his confidence in winning. It's different with the motivation of competition. In just half an hour, Tony had perfected the propulsion system that had been giving him the most headaches in the past 2 days. It could be said that he had an explosion of inspiration. Lyon has already finished learning about exoskeleton and started learning about circuit structure. Tony paid it a little attention and smirked again. He thought that Lyon gave up because of the difficulty and could not learn the knowledge about exoskeleton, so he changed direction. Do you find it difficult to learn armor knowledge? It doesn't matter, let's start with the simple ones. Tony spoke like he was opening a bottle of champagne. Don't make it hard on yourself. If everyone in this world can learn knowledge easily, then what's the point of having geniuses? He waved his hand and started to modify the equipment shoes again. Don't worry, when I make the most outstanding battle armor, I will consider letting you experience it. At this time, Tony seemed to have forgotten the fact that Lyon could fly. He was completely immersed in the joy of defeating his stupid brother after 3 days. With Dai's assistance, he even hummed the song Jingle Bells while performing the jet transformation. Lyon ignored Tony, who was popping champagne at halftime. A man sat aside, rapidly studying the teaching materials and comprehensive papers that Jarvis had prepared for him. If Tony walked behind Lyon at this moment and looked at the display screen in front of him, I would immediately slap myself in the face for being so complacent. Because on that screen, lines of text and charts were jumping so fast that they were blurry. But Lyon's eyes always stayed on the first line of text and chart that appeared each time. The speed at which the display screen switches text is not as fast as Lyon's reading and understanding speed. It only takes 30 seconds for Lyon to finish a college-level textbook. In just half an hour, he could become a comprehensive theoretical expert in a branch field. If there is a system that can rate the knowledge possessed by individuals. At this time, you can even see that upgrade icons are constantly popping up above Lyon's head. Level .1, Level .2, Level .3, Level .4. In that way, Tony could also foresee in advance that his brother had become a cheating player. Unfortunately, there is no such thing. When 3 hours passed, Lyon felt that he had enough knowledge and finally stood up. Tony was conducting his 13th propulsion device experiment. Now Tony can float in the air relatively stably. He was trying his best to control his balance and glanced at Lyon. Look who's here. Could it be that our little Lyon finally realized the difficulty of learning and wants to admit defeat and beg for mercy from his brother Tony? Lyon gave an unfathomable smile and reached out to adjust the non-existent glasses on his nose. No, I have learned the necessary knowledge and am now ready to join your research. Tony was stunned for a moment, then said with some amusement, That's perfect. Although you can't help me too much, you can still help carry the heavy equipment. He slowly descended from the air, staggering a bit before he could stand firm. Follow me, the propulsion system is basically complete, and now we can start making the armor for the rest of the positions. Tony was sure that he would win, so he began to concentrate on building the armor. He arranged the follow-up work in an orderly manner. Lyon, go take down the titanium alloy and gold. Dai, hold the magnifying glass steady. The two soon began to work together to build the armor. Tony was the one giving the orders during the entire process. Lyon asked a few questions from time to time. Tony, who was in a state of concentration, didn't think anything was wrong. He explained while doing the work, and it can be said that he knew everything. It seems that even though he thinks his younger brother is stupid, he still hopes that he can learn more of his skills. That place is wrong. You have to go around and start from here, otherwise there will be a short circuit. Haha, you must be kidding. How can such a heavy load be equipped with a transformation device? Very good, the flight stabilizer can be installed here. Lyon, your strength is really a great tool for assembling and building equipment. I dare say that hydraulic presses are not as useful as you. I should have asked you to come down and help me a few days ago. The two spent a whole day and a whole night making armor. Thanks to Lyon's participation, the assembly and manufacturing of parts can be said to be both precise and efficient. For example, if Tony needed a part with IT-level precision temporarily, he used to have to wait for the factory to deliver it. But on this night, all Lyon had to do was wave his fist and he could get a component that was better than IT grade. Very good. Tony's dark circles had turned into dark bags, but his big eyes were still bright. The armor originally required a month or even several months to build and calibrate. Surprisingly, with the help of Lyon, 80% of the work was completed overnight. Tony's current mental state is extremely uplifting. He only needs to take one more step and he will be able to put on his new armor and soar into the sky. He habitually commanded, "Lyon, go and build another current loop. Next, we just need to connect to Jarvis' system and perform assembly experiments to complete the final steps." However, what he waited for was another answer. "No, Tony, I'm leaving." Lyon refused. "What are you talking about? Why are you leaving?" Tony's eyes widened. Lyon spread his hands. "Did you forget? I said I would build a battle armor better than Mark's within 3 days. And now that I have learned all your skills, I will certainly not stay here. It just so happens that the final steps of crafting your armor won't be too troublesome, and you can handle it by yourself. So I have to go. See you in 3 days, Tony." Lyon waved his hand. "I'm going to your lab. Come up to me if you need anything." "What?" Tony's mind was full of question marks. "You really want to build your own armor? Are you kidding? You are just an ordinary weight." Tony suddenly remembered. On this past night, in the process of assisting him, the questions Lyon asked changed from simple at the beginning to in-depth later on, and even began to inspire him. The same is true for the hands-on part. I felt unfamiliar at first, but later I became proficient. In other words, Lyon really learned those professional knowledge. Tony was shocked by the memories that suddenly came back to him. He was so immersed in his work and highly focused last night that he didn't notice it. Now that I think about it, Lyon clearly grew from a mechanical novice to a mechanical expert overnight. And he is an expert who is not necessarily weaker than him. Your learning speed. Is this a super brain? Tony was so shocked that he sat down on the chair. What is this? Can a super brain be so unreasonable? This is cheating. Chapter 14 Tony Antash 039's gift. Well, that's true. But how should I put it? Actually, I just learn and think faster, but my creativity is not necessarily better than yours. Lyon thought about it, worried that Tony would be shocked, and analyzed his own abilities. The iron armor is a collection of the most comprehensive and top-notch knowledge you have mastered. Every step is the most advanced application of relevant knowledge. Plus, you guided me step by step last night. That's why I was able to master this knowledge very quickly. What I have done is just to copy your knowledge exactly as it is and make it my own. Lyon nodded his head. As powerful as a supercomputer in learning and processing capabilities, this is a super brain. But when it comes to innovation, I still have to rely on my own talent. And super brains have limitations in comics. In some DC works, it is said that most of Superman's super brain computing power will be used to restrain his own power. But I haven't encountered this problem yet. Lyon made a small gesture with his index finger and thumb. The proportion of my brain power used to limit my superpowers is very small. So wait, Tony. In 3 days, I will use your knowledge and my innovation to defeat you. Tony, who slumped in his chair, felt a little better after hearing the explanation. Hearing this, he stood up again with a look of dissatisfaction on his face. Don't be ridiculous, kid. Have you ever seen a plagiarist who can surpass the original author? There is no way my masterpiece can lose. Then let's wait and see. This is the wisdom of mortals. Lyon left a provocative remark and went upstairs. In the parking garage, Tony's eyes lit up with fighting spirit again. There was no way he would admit defeat in his own field, especially to his hateful brother Lyon. However, before Tony could return to the workbench again, Lyon's figure suddenly reappeared behind him. Oh, by the way, I forgot one thing. Tony, you are in such a bad state that you can't continue working. Take a rest first. As soon as he finished speaking, Tony felt his neck go numb and he lost consciousness instantly. Cheating. This guy is cheating. Before Tony fell asleep, he used his last bit of consciousness to curse Lyon in his heart. telling him not to play if he couldn't afford it. "Look at this baby-like sleep," Lyon commented, picked up Tony and threw him into the bedroom. "Master Lyon, this may seem unfair to you. Mr. Stark won't accept it," Jarvis reminded kindly. "It's best if he doesn't accept it. I'm worried that he'll suffer a mental blow after being defeated by me and will never recover." Lyon walked into Tony's laboratory. "You seem very confident," Jarvis asked in a declarative tone. "Of course." Lyon turned on the power supplies one by one in front of Tony's workbench. After all, the most important thing for the armor in the early stage is to improve its functions, and the requirements for technological progress are not high. And I happen to have several transformation plans in mind that can be achieved without using more advanced technology. Just kidding, not to mention the dozens of iron armors developed by Tony in the movies. It was the armor from the comics, something he had known about in his previous life. The research and development ideas of those armors were just fantasies in the previous life. But in this world, this is a path that other Tonys have already trodden. He only needs to develop along these lines to always be one step ahead of his brother. Poor Tony, he will have to live in Lyon's shadow from now on. Lyon happily moved Dayday and Benben out of the garage and started his own creation. "Okay, Dayday, put away the arc reactor that Tony made on the table first, Master Lyon." Jarvis suddenly interrupted at this time. "What happened?" "Miss Pepper is here. She's looking for you." "Not right now. Tell her I'll be out in 3 days." "But she's already down." Then tell her Tony is in the bedroom." "I'm sorry, but maybe you could consider telling Miss Pepper the news in person." As soon as Jarvis finished speaking, Pepper went downstairs and appeared outside the transparent partition door of the laboratory. She saw Lyon, who was smiling awkwardly and greeting her, and slapped the partition glass angrily, entered the code on the door and walked in. "Hi, Pepper, good morning." Lyon spoke first. Pepper looked like she was going to accuse someone of something. "You didn't go to the company yesterday, Lyon." Lyon was busy learning how to make armor yesterday and had forgotten about this. He smiled and said, "But Joe Bush is there. He is hardworking and can definitely share the work with you. But that's no reason for you to hide at home." Pepper looked at Lyon's messy hair after a sleepless night, and couldn't help but tidy it up. "What were you doing last night? Why are your hair and clothes so oh my god? Did you follow Tony's example and call those cover girls and ask them to come to your house?" Pepper's eyes turned dangerous. Lyon is like her child. If Tony teaches him bad things, she will scold Tony so hard that he will be ashamed today. No, Lyon interrupted hastily. "What do you mean again? I've never done that before, and I won't do that again in the future." "Pepper, don't worry. I blame Tony for the way I am now. He distanced himself from the matter. I came down yesterday and asked him to come back to the company to show up, but he dragged me to make the armor." He rolled his eyes and snatched the oldest arc reactor from Dayday's hand. "Look, Tony has prepared a gift for you." "Gift?" Pepper became curious and shifted her attention to the arc reactor. "This is from Tony's chest." "Yes, that's it." Lyon embellished it artificially. "This little gadget is an arc generator, a brand new cold nuclear reaction energy source representing the future of mankind. Tony has been doing research related to this little thing these days. That's what he planned for Stark Corporation's next step to bring better benefits to the world. And this arc reactor in my hand was given to you by Tony." Lyon stepped in and said, "This is the life-saving device he built in the terrorist organization's cave. It is also the world's first small-scale arc reactor. After he replaced this little gadget, he originally intended to give it to you. But you also know that with his personality, he won't be able to say anything straightforward in 100 years." So Lyon handed the arc reactor to Pepper. "You know the meaning of this gift, right?" Pepper didn't take it, nor did she speak, because she was so moved. This gift is so meaningful and romantic. Pepper covered her mouth with her hands and was unable to speak for a moment. He really gave it to me. Pepper carefully took the arc reactor. The happiness came too unexpectedly, leaving her at a loss. Chapter 15 today &039S Stark is very noisy. Of course, but if it were him, he would definitely say, Lyon said in a long voice, Pepper, I have many habits, but the only thing I don't have is nostalgia, so you can deal with this thing, smash it or burn it, it's up to you. Putch I tilde Lyon imitated it so well that Pepper couldn't help but laugh out loud. She looked at the arc reactor in her hand and couldn't get enough of it. That's exactly what he would say. Pepper smiled. Where is he now? Lyon shrugged. He was sleeping. He was doing research all night for the past few days, so I knocked him out. No sleep for days? Oh my God, Lyon, you did the right thing. Is he in the bedroom now? Of course, you should go up and see him. Okay, I'll go right away. Pepper nodded repeatedly and left the laboratory with brisk and hurried steps. Before leaving, she did not forget to look back. Lyon, you too, you have to pay attention to rest, understand? I know. Lyon smiled widely. After I finish packing these little gadgets, I'll go take a rest. Pepper gave him an affirmative look. That's the best. Watching Pepper disappear into the corridor, Lyon breathed a sigh of relief. Few solved. Jarvis said, Master Lyon, is it really okay for you to do this? Mr. Stark didn't. What's the big deal? If it weren't for me, Tony would definitely have handed the arc reactor to Pepper to deal with, and what he said would definitely be similar to what I imitated. Lyon didn't care. Simulate it yourself and see if it's the result. Jarvis paused for a few seconds. Is based on Mr. Stark's past behavior patterns. The simulation results are 83% similar. Yeah, I just beautified the process. Lyon spread his hands. As far as the result is concerned, Pepper got happiness, Tony got happiness, and I got free time. A win-win for all three. Jarvis immediately said, Mr. Stark will be grateful to you if he knows. Lyon raised an eyebrow. He must be grateful. Okay, now that no one is interrupting, let's officially start making the armor. When Tony woke up again, the world seemed a little strange. Pepper became very gentle. Jarvis always asked him how he was feeling today. As for Lyon, this treacherous boy, he was not even allowed to enter the laboratory. That's his own laboratory. Humph, judging from the way Lyon is being secretive. Maybe he is unable to make the armor and is afraid of being embarrassed, so he refuses to reveal anything. Tony guessed maliciously after realizing that he had slept all day. Very good. Tony walked into the underground garage angrily and began to assemble his own armor. Even if I can't get into the lab, I will beat Lyon in the competition 2 days later, and then pour a cup of heated cola into his mouth. Now, Day-Day, go push the bracket over here. And then Tony waited for a while and realized something was wrong. Where are you? And Benny? He looked around and found that none of his intelligent robotic arms were there. I can't believe it. Lyon didn't even leave me an arm. They all became his shape. Tony was going crazy. In the end, Tony ran back to the laboratory and asked Lyon to return his little assistance. After all, he doesn't have superpowers, so if he wants to assemble armor, he has to rely on machines. 2 days later. It's another rare sunny day. West Coast, Los Angeles. The sunlight refracted on the sea surface merges with the waves, and each wave is a prism. Looking out from the Stark mansion, the sea is sparkling for thousands of miles. Sailboats and cruise ships travel on the sea, creating a peaceful scene. But even this tranquility cannot reduce the tense atmosphere in Stark's mansion today. In the cold-toned underground garage, sunlight shines in obliquely from the entrance, dividing the space of hundreds of square meters into 2 halves, dark and bright. Lyon walked from outside into the underground garage. Under the sunlight, the ends of his hair seemed somewhat transparent, covered with a layer of golden light. Tony was sitting at the innermost side of the garage. He was wearing a felt hat which was very appropriate for the occasion, with the long brim covering his face. "I'm coming," Lyon said coldly. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." Tony's eyes were hidden under the brim of his hat. "You are destined to lose. You shouldn't have come." As Tony finished his words, a burst of passionate and sharp music suddenly rang out, echoing in the garage, as if someone would pull out a gun and shoot at any time. WTF. Tony was startled. He actually jumped out of his chair. Maybe he felt that he had lost his momentum and lost the first city. Tony asked angrily as he took off his hat and slammed it on the table. "Jarvis, what the hell is this music?" "Mr. Stark, this is the song Extreme Ways that Master Lyon asked me to play in advance. It was the theme song of the movie The Bourne Supremacy a few years ago." Tony was speechless. "Lyon, today we are competing in armor, not a gunfight. Do you want to shoot me out if you lose the competition?" "What are you talking about, Tony?" Lyon said, not understanding. "I'm using exciting music to tell you that you will lose today's competition." "Really? If bragging can make you a winner, then those underground rappers in the United States will be the kings of the world," Tony insinuated. Lyon was unmoved. He's already boasting before even showing off his armor. Who is the one who's guilty? Then show me what you have made in these 2 days. Tony deliberately looked around. "But why is there nothing here except you? Could it be that you are actually unable to build a battle armor, and you are just holding on and refusing to give in?" Tony opened his hands. "Lyon, don't be like this. As a brother, I have always taught you to be honest. If you can't do something, just apologize and I will forgive you." "Oh, don't worry, you will see it later." Lyon smiled. "Why not now?" Tony raised his chin. Lyon pointed his finger at Tony and said, "Because according to international practice, ladies come first." Tony's face darkened. "Boy, I don't remember teaching you that you can talk to a gentleman like this." "Really?" Lyon crossed his arms over his chest. "Which teacher told me ladies first when I was about to give a speech at my graduation ceremony? That was almost a year ago." Tony pinched the bridge of his nose. "But you taught a young gentleman how to speak to another gentleman." Lyon remained in his posture. Okay, it's my fault, but you can't say such things again in the future. It's very rude." Tony was serious for once. Lyon nodded. "Of course not. I will only say this to you." Tony simply turned around and stopped saying harsh words to the little bastard. Chapter 16. The verbal battle before the competition is an essential part of the communication. Tony stood in front of the experimental site he built. There is a huge support in the middle of the venue. Under the bracket, there stood a 2-meter-tall giant covered by a wide black cloth. Its edges lift up the black cloth, giving it a human-like shape. That was obviously Tony's armor. "You should feel honored." Tony opened his hands. "You are about to witness the debut of the world's greatest masterpiece. And you are witnessing it twice." Lyon did not deny it. "It seems to be true. Come on, please start your performance." Tony's expression grew more serious. He kept his hands spread out. "Go ahead, Jarvis. Crunch." After the order was given, several mechanical arms extended from the bracket behind Tony and removed the black cloth. A steel-colored battle armor suddenly appeared. The armor's steel-textured, gleaming shell reflects the sunlight like water. Suddenly, the basement seemed to be brighter. Several mechanical arms kept moving, removing the parts of the armor one by one, and then began to put on Tony. Those pieces of iron scales, as if endowed with life, overlapped on Tony's body and wrapped him up. When Tony was completely dressed in the iron armor, the mechanical arms naturally moved away, and the eyes of the armor suddenly lit up with a faint light. Swish! Air spurted out from the gaps between the scales of the armor like breathing. "Look, this is my armor." Tony controlled the armor to spread out his arms, and flames spurted out from the soles of his feet and the palms of his hands at the same time. He flew up and hovered in the air, This is the Mark Roman too. Now, I can fly too. Wow, that's cool. Lyon couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the metallic armor in front of him. Jarvis' voice appeared at an inopportune moment. Mr. Stark, the flight function of Mark II still needs more testing. No, 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 Jarvis. Sometimes we have to run first before we can learn to walk slowly. Tony denied repeatedly. It can be seen that he can't wait to fly in the sky. Tony floated in the air, flicked off his visor, and turned his gaze toward Lyon again. The Mark Roman II was equipped with a series of equipment including flight stabilizers and palm impact beams, which was 2 years ahead of the world. Now it's your turn. Where's your armor? Lyon didn't answer immediately, but walked around Tony. It is made of titanium steel, with a new energy source as its core and equipped with the Jarvis system. It is indeed a masterpiece that transcends the times. Then he changed the subject, but this is far from enough. I remember there was gold in the spare materials, but you didn't use it. This will be a failure. Tony was confused. Why do we need to add gold material to the armor? That's unnecessary. In a few minutes, you will find the answer to this question on my armor. Lyon put away the admiration in his eyes, pulled up his sleeves, revealing 2 glowing bracelets. Look, this is my armor. Jarvis, start the program. Die. An electronic sound passed by, and the lights of the 2 bracelets on Lyon's wrists turned red. Then there was a roar coming from upstairs in the garage, followed by the crackling sound of various things breaking into pieces. Tony looked at him strangely. It seems something broke in my lab. What are you doing? Well, that might be a little unexpected on the plan route. Look, here it comes. Lyon suddenly floated up and spread his arms in the air. The next moment, a red and blue oval flying capsule spewing flames flew in from outside the garage. Is your battle armor just a big iron can? That's really my god, how is this possible? Tony subconsciously started to tease, but was immediately speechless. The red and blue flight capsule began to disintegrate after entering the garage. Parts of the iron armor unfolded in the air, spewing flames, and stuck to Lyon's back with perfect fit. The red and blue scales were fitted onto Lyon's body with incredible precision, based on his torso. Finally, it forms a battle armor with a blue base and red embellishments. The eyes of the armor lit up, and every component adjusted its position according to Lyon's movements, as if it were a living thing that could breathe. This is simply a work of art made of steel, with a streamlined shape that combines strength and beauty. After the armor was assembled, flames suddenly shot out from the soles of his feet and back, keeping Lyon afloat. He pointed to various parts of his body and explained his newly acquired functions one by one. My battle armor is powered by a bracelet. When it's idle, it's a flight cabin. I can provide remote support when needed. Although there are no weapons on board for now, there are a lot of spaces reserved for adding weapons. The most important thing is that this suit of armor has a propulsion device on the back, which can free your hands during flight and be used for fighting or waving and saying hello. In addition, there are many other functions, such as the newly added liquid filtration function, which allows users to solve problems anywhere during flight. Even though Tony was already open-mouthed in surprise, he hurriedly interrupted. Wait, that sentence just now seemed a bit disgusting. Are you going to pee while wearing the armor? Don't you feel disgusted? Oh, really? I thought you would like this feature. Lyon rolled his eyes. Even if others don't know, how could he not understand this guy Tony? This liquid filtering function was specially shown off by this guy in the movie. The reason why he was interrupted now was probably because Tony couldn't stand the provocation and had to find fault with him. Will I like it? Are you kidding? This disgusting and useless function is a blasphemy to the armor, Tony said seriously. Lyon raised his eyebrows. Well, anyway, I won this competition, right? He counted on his fingers. Your armor doesn't have as many functions as mine, and it's not as convenient to wear as mine. There are so many differences, so no, Lyon, you got one thing wrong. Tony quickly tried to make amends. What is a battle armor? It's a weapon. Its main function is combat. It's a waste of time to have so many additional abilities. So, Lyon motioned for Tony to continue. So, when comparing armors, the most important thing is to compare their performance, such as speed, environmental adaptability, and strength. I have no objection, but how do we compete? Lyon thought about it and came up with an idea. I suggest that we fly to the sky together to see who can fly faster and farther. Tony snapped his fingers. I thought so too. Okay, let's go out. Let Jarvis say start, and then Lyon increased the power of the thrusters and flew out. Oh. Lyon, you plan to compete with me in your armor? Tony felt something was wrong. Then how else can we compete? Lyon stopped. Chapter 17. Everyone is winning. I mean, you can fly yourself, right? What if your armor isn't fast enough and you end up flying past me? Tony finally remembered that Lyon's own speed was dozens of times that of the iron armor. Am I the type to cheat? You can't cheat, but you knocked me out 2 days ago. Okay, then I'll get out of the armor, Jarvis, and you control the armor. Wait, Jarvis is the one controlling it. You mean, this armor can be unmanned the entire time? Tony hasn't researched that far yet. How about it? My armor is strong, right? It's a it's a good idea, but I thought of it before, but I didn't have enough time. You're really awesome, Tony. Okay, Jarvis, are you ready? We're about to start the competition. Tony changed the subject with a guilty conscience. Okay, Mr. Stark, I'll start the countdown in 3 seconds. Are you ready? I have long been ready. Jarvis gave the order, ready, 3, 2, 1, go. The 2 battle armors ignited their thrusters at the same time, took off at full power, soared into the sky, and their long tail flames streaked across the sky. Lyon looked at the clouds where the 2 disappeared and couldn't help but complain. Actually, if you ask me, both armors are pretty slow. As expected, armor has no other function for me except for sentimentality. Then he twisted his collar with both hands, and the biological force field spread out, rushing into the sky like a reverse meteor. Wow! Tony continued to accelerate in the sky. He had never experienced flying so freely in the sky before. For millions of years the sky has been held high above mankind. Flying into the sky and conquering the sky is a desire engraved in human genes. No wonder so many people throughout history have tried to fly. This feeling is really amazing. Tony was extremely excited and felt that he was a victorious king of machinery. Jarvis, has Lyon's armor been left far behind by me now? He felt that the answer was yes. However, Jarvis is always so ruthless. I'm sorry, Mr. Stark. I regret to tell you that you have been left behind by the mecha controlled by my subroutine. What? Tony was stunned. This is impossible. I'm sorry, the fact is that the distance between you and Master Lyon's armor is already 700 meters. Tony looked up, but the sky was covered with layers of clouds and fog, making it difficult for him to see the scenery above. This must be a mistake. Speed up, Jarvis, speed up as much as you can. Mark II burst out with greater thrust, pushing away the sea of clouds and heading upstream. However, after a few minutes, Tony still couldn't see Lyon's armor, not even an exhaust. How the hell is it so fast? Because Master Lyon used a more coordinated motion system and reduced the weight of the armor, the acceleration and top speed have both increased. Jarvis reported. Okay, I now admit that the boy is a genius, but I can't lose this competition. Jarvis, use excessive power. Sir, I have to remind you that if you continue upwards, the temperature may be too low and the armor may freeze. Listen to me and keep flying. A few minutes later, Tony vaguely saw the tail flame of Lyon's armor. Okay, that's it. Catch up with it and then overtake it. Sir, the outer layer of the armor has been frozen. Continuing to fly may cause damage to the components. Don't worry about it. Keep speeding up. Tony is now full of passion and his competitive spirit has been fully aroused. If it were in a hot-blooded comic, he would definitely explode next, and then surpass Lyon's armor and achieve a counterattack. Unfortunately, the physical rules of the Marvel world will not give in to him for such a reason. In Marvel, only the more tragic a person is, the more he can ignore physics and counterattack. As the altitude continued to rise, layers of frost began to cover the Mark Roman II hull, spreading and thickening rapidly. The armor's acceleration began to decrease. Jarvis didn't have time to remind him. The next moment, Mark II suddenly stalled. All current circuits inside the armor were frozen and the power was cut off instantly. Wait, what's going on? Tony's straight body lost balance and fell rapidly like a frog with its claws and fangs bared. Jarvis, open your wings. Tony found that the armor was frozen and out of control and wanted to call Jarvis. But the current was short-circuited and the intelligence system had already stopped working. The armor was falling faster and faster, and gravity was mercilessly exerting its power at this moment. No, Lyon, save me, Tony shouted in panic next second. No problem, Tony. Lyon instantly appeared in front of Mark II, blocking it in the waist, and the falling trend stopped instantly. This damn sense of security is so damn good. Tony was still in shock. Oh my god. That was really thrilling. Thank you, Lyon, although I know you must be watching me make a fool of myself down there. Don't say that. In fact, I wanted to see if you could remain calm and turn the situation around. You'd better think so. Tony took a deep breath to calm himself down. Whoosh! On the other side, Jarvis flew down in Lyon's armor. Sir, I'm so glad you're okay. It was really scary just now. Jarvis expressed his concern in a mechanical voice. Lyon continued to carry Tony. Okay, now the competition is over. Let's go back. Tony had no objection. On the way back, he suddenly asked, the gold you mentioned is used to solve the problem of ice formation at high altitudes. Yes, adding gold material can allow the armor to continue to operate in extreme environments. Tony fell completely silent. Back in the underground garage, Tony took off his armor with the help of his smart arm. Lyon, you won. He sat down a little frustrated. Yes, I won. Lyon smiled happily. He walked over to Tony and sat down next to him. But you actually win, Tony. He explained to Tony's puzzled look. You taught me how to build the Iron Man suit, so I can build it. It's like if you teach other mechanics this knowledge, can they really not learn it? Of course they can learn it. Because everyone has different ideas, they can even create armor with more functions than yours. The most difficult thing in this world is never learning and extending, but creation from scratch. Tony, and you are the one who created it. If it weren't for you, maybe in 20 years, no one would be able to build a small arc reactor, and no one would be able to build an iron suit of armor. I defeated you this time only because I improved some things that you didn't have time to improve. Don't you think you can do these things, Tony? Tony immediately shook his head. Of course not, it's just give me some time. I can do it. Look, Lyon patted Tony on the shoulder. Tony, you just lack a little time, and I just used my super brain to save that time. Tony's frustration just now slowly dissipated, and his eyes were a little complicated. Lyon, you are really different now. You just realized that I'm already like a little Superman. How can I still be the same as before? No, I mean, you've grown up. I'm sorry, I can't tell whether you are insulting me or praising me. Of course I'm praising you. Well, Tony, I have to say that you have grown up after returning from Afghanistan this time. After all, you never knew how to stop. Why are you cursing at me all of a sudden? Look, what did I just say? You won again. Oh, this damn adolescent desire to win. You really should go to Columbia University instead of annoying me at home all day long. Look, Tony, you're anxious again. Get out. Get away from me. Okay, I'll leave now. Leon picked up his armor and ran away. This kid. Tony shook his head helplessly, thought about it, and suddenly laughed again. It's really amazing. Chapter 18. Test of Strength. A few days later, rain. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and the drizzle turned the sea surface outside Stark's mansion into honeycomb coal underground garage. Leon was wearing a tight sensor suit with round iron plates attached to various parts of his body. At the end of the iron plates were induction wires leading to a huge machine. Are you sure this iron block can test my strength? Leon moved his wrist. Today was the day he and Tony had agreed to test their strength and new abilities. So at dawn, the sun was struggling to cast a few rays of light through the gaps in the dark clouds. Tony excitedly dragged him out of the bed. After washing up and having breakfast, the two went to the underground garage. A circular iron pier with a radius of 3 meters is fixed on the wall of the underground garage facing the sea. This is a prop for testing strength. Why do you always use a questioning tone to state a fact? Tony was very confident. He introduced, after you went to space half a year ago, I had a hunch that this day would come, so I built this strength tester here in advance. Most of its material comes from a tungsten alloy that I specially synthesized. High melting point, high density, and high wear resistance. It won't deform even if a 1,000,000-ton object is placed on it, and it won't be damaged even if a force of tens of thousands of tons is applied to it. The alloy I created during the synthesis of this tester will be far ahead of its time even if it is used to build a warship. Tony stood in front of the computer desk. So don't worry, I guarantee that it won't be damaged by you. Leon still had doubts. Tony, you know, the confidence you have now is exactly the same as when we competed a few days ago. Tony was choked. It's not the same thing. Anyway, you just need to stand in front of the tester and punch with all your might. I'll take care of the rest. No, that's not safe. Leon said, at least put on your armor first. Tony slapped his forehead. I'm more than 10 meters away from you and you're not safe. When did you become so arrogant? Put on your armor, Leon repeated. Okay, I'll wear it. Tony raised his hands. As long as it can make our little princess feel at ease, I can wear it. The 2 bracelets on his wrists glowed red. A few seconds later, a red and gold flying cabin flew in from outside the garage and quickly transformed into a battle armor that wrapped around Tony. Mark Roman 3. This is the new armor that Tony created in the past few days by directly copying Leon's data. This armor is not made of new elements. It has almost the same functions as the Mark 7 in the movie. You know, Mark 7 is a battle armor that only appeared in the first phase of the Avengers, and it is extremely powerful. Note in parentheses, Leon helped to complete the work so quickly. Another parenthesis, Tony paid special attention to the liquid circulation function and deliberately excluded this function in front of Leon. I believe that he will suffer for this in the future and then succumb to the law of true fragrance. Is it okay now? Tony stretched his legs and gestured, I look forward to your performance. Leon curled his lips speechlessly. This old deng even plagiarized his lines. I hope the tester you build is as tough as your mouth. He stood in front of the pitch-black tester and took a deep breath. Suddenly, the air in the basement began to surge into wind. Tony on the other side had never seen such a scene before. He looked around at the papers flying all over the sky in the wind, feeling dumbfounded. Then he saw Leon slowly squatting back, his muscles bulging like the most perfect stone sculptures. Why I feel like something is not right. Tony stared at Leon blankly as he growled and punched out. Then, the entire underground garage turned upside down in an instant. Rumble. The roar like a missile exploding beside his ears filled Tony's whole world. Everywhere you look there are gravels and dust. The sudden strong wind blew Tony down, and the tables and chairs fell on him, threatening to carry him to an unknown place with a hurricane. If Jarvis hadn't activated the armor's thrusters in time, Tony would have disappeared in the underground garage. Fortunately, all this commotion did not last long. After a dozen seconds, the feeling of the earth breaking apart and the sky collapsing disappeared. The entire underground garage was covered in dust and visibility was almost zero. Cough, cough, cough. What happened? Tony turned off the thrusters and staggered a few steps to the ground. Then, he heard the sound of Lyon exhaling again call. The strong wind blew up again, but this time it was much gentler, blowing away only some debris and smoke in the air. Now the view is clear. But Tony's brain shut down. The originally minimalist basement has now become a war-damaged ruin of Syria. It is full of holes, like a dilapidated building. Everything that was originally in the room, the glass, the machinery, the lights are all gone. The dozen or so limited edition sports cars parked in the underground garage are also gone. Even the tester on the wall, which he thought could withstand almost any impact, was left with only a hole. On the other side of the hole is the misty sea. My lord, the time comes in the afternoon. The location is a meadow outside Los Angeles. The characters are still the brothers Lyon and Tony. The drizzle continued to fall, and Lyon, in his shirt, kept banging on a huge round iron pier. You said that you, a tough guy, could withstand my strength. He complained. In the end, I didn't even use half of my strength, and it changed from a flat shape to a convex shape. And it fell into the sea, so I had to dive down to the bottom of the sea to fish it out. Come on, Lyon. Tony was standing 50 meters away, wearing his Iron Man suit, operating the computer to calibrate data and replying via radio. Even God couldn't have imagined that your power would be so outrageous. God knows you've only been in the sun for half a year. How could your strength increase so greatly? It's like an exponential increase. Look at the 3 months of sun you basked in Los Angeles 6 months ago. It took more than 90 days to increase the force by more than 400 tons. Jarvis and I built models based on data from that period. I predict that after you return, your force should be between 1,000 tons and 5,000 tons, and your speed should not exceed Mach 5. Who would have thought you would be so strong? And look at the TV show Smallville. Clark Kent couldn't fly even after he entered high school, and he's been in the sun for more than 10 years. Lyon stopped what he was doing and pressed the headset. Do you still watch the Superman TV series? I think that movie is very well made and shows the mental journey of Superman's growth. But you probably didn't see the second half, because Superman's performance in the latter part is outrageous. Tony retorted. Then he didn't become as strong as you did. Well, maybe it's because I'm an adult, or maybe it's because I can bask in the sun more efficiently in space. Lyon guessed. He punched the tester again. Okay. The tester has returned to its original state. How do we test it now? Chapter 19. This power is far from enough. Right now, I can't find any testing equipment that can fully withstand your full-strength punch. We have to change our approach and use multidimensional data to estimate the approximate value. Tony always has flexible solutions. What do you want me to do? Lyon asked. Exerting force in the air shouldn't affect your condition, right? It doesn't matter. I have a bioforce field. Tony adjusted all the instruments and spoke on the radio. Then you fly up and push that tester down like Superman pushes an asteroid. This won't test your punching strength, but it will test your pushing strength. We'll test your punching speed later, and then we can let Jarvis combine the data to roughly calculate your punching power. Okay. Lyon jumped into the air, turned his body upside down in the air, and placed his hands on the iron block. I'm going to start exerting my strength. Remember to use your best strength. Of course. Lyon's eyes focused, his muscles bulged, and he pushed downward with all his strength. Tony responded quickly. Almost instantly, the number on the screen jumped to 9 digits, which scared him. And the data was still rising rapidly, until Lyon roared in the distance. Then it stopped growing and began to fluctuate up and down. Okay. Tony's voice trembled a little. Lyon exhaled from his chest. What's my thrust? Tony swallowed his saliva. 370 million kilograms, or 370,000 tons. Jarvis estimates that your single arm strength should be between 140,000 and 190,000 tons. So high? Lyon couldn't help but be surprised. This number is really not low. The steel-maned Superman who just appeared in the DC movie is only set to have a strength of 800,000 tons. Although that was her first appearance and she had not yet fully developed, she had been exposed to the sun for more than 20 years. He only sunbathed for more than half a year. Besides, such power is basically enough for him to be invincible on Earth, but it's still not enough. Lyon clenched his fists. The Earth is just a small pond. There are many giants outside the pond. I still have a long way to go and must continue to find ways to become stronger. Tony listened to Lyon's mumbling on the other side and rolled his eyes. He was so overwhelmed by this wave of Versailles that he didn't even have the mood to refute. He just operated the computer and started the next test. Next is the punch speed test. Punch at the highest speed you think you can sustain when attacking. Lyon thought for a moment and said, I usually use the bioforce field to protect the surrounding environment when I punch, so I will use the fastest punch speed that the bioforce field can withstand at full strength. He stood on the iron block and made another power-gathering move. Shrink your waist, twist your hips, and punch. A standard straight punch. The fighting skills that Lyon learned a few days ago allowed him to maximize his strength. However, this punch was just in the air, without the huge force of tens of thousands of tons. Die! Tony was still watching Lyon from a distance. In his eyes, Lyon didn't move at all. As a result, a number suddenly popped up in his computer without any warning. Meters per second, close to Mach 32. Is this your maximum speed when you exert maximum force? Tony put his hands on the table and stared at the screen. Lyon thought Tony thought the same as him, that the speed was too slow. It's a bit slow. In fact, I can go even faster, but if I use all my strength and exceed this speed, my bioforce field will be broken and affect the surrounding environment just like what happened in the garage this morning. Tony smacked his lips. It can be even faster. This is simply a god on Earth. God is just like that. This is far from enough. When I become stronger, my bioforce field will also become stronger, and the speed of my punching can be increased. Not enough. Tony was puzzled. Do you know how powerful your punch of hundreds of thousands of tons will be at this speed? Probably like a small meteorite falling to Earth. Tony wiped his face with both hands. About that, Jarvis, tell him the exact number. Okay, sir. Master Lyon, calculate according to the model. With an acceleration of Mach 31 in an instant, your full-strength punch with one arm can produce an impact force of more than 1 trillion newtons in 240 seconds, which is equivalent to the power of Hiroshima atomic bombs exploding simultaneously. Tony slammed the table. It's equivalent to 360 million tons of TNT, and that doesn't even take into account the fact that your fist has a smaller force area, so the pressure will be even greater. Jarvis continued. Yes, Master Lyon, you are now a high-explosive hydrogen bomb that can walk freely. And you have unlimited firepower. Tony took 2 deep breaths. He was really excited. Who would have thought that this little brother at home who quarreled with him every day actually hid such tremendous power? Do you still feel that your strength is not enough now? I don't know why you are so eager to become stronger. Did I not protect you well enough when you were a child? No, Tony, of course you're so nice to me that you even hang me around your neck to pick up girls, but there are many other reasons. Lyon thought about it and it seemed that what Tony said was right. Isn't it because he had a psychological trauma when he was a child, worrying every day about the Time Management Bureau coming to arrest him, that he is now eager to become stronger? After experiencing the most powerless and anxious days, I realized how important it is to have power in my hands. What's the reason? Because I was only concerned with picking up girls. So you were jealous and wanted to use your super strength to beat me up? Tony's mind was a little confused and he complained casually. Then I should really beat you up. Lyon pressed the communication earplug. Okay, let's move on to the next test. There will be more shocking things for you later. In the next hour, Lyon conducted heat ray temperature test, freezing breath range test, perspective test, flight test. Tony's screams also changed from horror at the beginning to half-death later. From God to "Do you deserve to die?" Don't blame Tony for being numb, just blame Lyon for being too versatile. The heat rays, which have a temperature of 6,000 degrees and can adjust the power and range at will, are barely usable in his mouth. He said that the freezing breath that was enough to freeze several kilometers of land in an instant was still a long way off. He said that the X-ray eye, which can see through the whole world, cannot see through lead, is defective, and is better not to be used. Even with his super hearing, he could still say it was too noisy and of little use. After the whole process, Tony had no other thoughts and just wanted to give Lyon a big kiss on the face with his size 42 leather shoes. And then, what is the next ability to be tested? Tony's eyes were dull as he slumped in his chair, one hand weakly sliding the mouse. Chapter 20 Tony and Ash 039's Family Talk. The next ability, well, that's it. It's already been tested, Tony. Lyon spread his hands. Have you finished the test? Tony seemed to have heard some good news. He suddenly became energetic and straightened his back. He zoomed in on the chart on his computer. I thought you could give me a whole page of abilities. A whole page? No matter how you put it, it can't be that exaggerated. Lyon flew towards Tony. Why not? Tony said in an exaggerated tone. I remember you said that you have all the abilities of Superman. I thought you were going to demonstrate your ability to reverse time, like in Superman 1, or heal wounds with heat rays or something like that. Lyon landed in front of Tony. Don't be ridiculous. How could I have such ability? You said it. You have all the abilities that Superman has. Tony emphasized. I still remember the confident look on your face when you said this in the garage. Lyon was speechless. This time he was hit by his own boomerang. Who can blame the fact that this world still doesn't have Henry Cavill as the Man of Steel? Other movie and TV superheroes are much more powerful than Heng Kao. So the person he was comparing himself with in his mind at that time was actually Heng Kao. Lyon sighed. Okay, I take that back. I just have the abilities of a Kryptonian. Superman is so strong because he is the protagonist in the comics. His fellow Kryptonians aren't as powerful as him. And so do I. Lyon walked to the computer and checked the records. Don't look at my rapid increase in strength now. I guess, actually, this level is not far from my limit. Tony thought this was a very interesting topic. Really? That actually makes sense. A species of life that can reproduce shouldn't have the ability to evolve infinitely. He touched his chin with his hand. Perhaps we can do a simple experiment and build a model to estimate your future growth curve. That's what I want to do, Lyon agreed happily, but I'll need your help with the subsequent tests. No problem for me. Tony took it all in. Lyon smiled and patted Tony on the shoulder. Thanks, Tony. But now, it seems that we have to go back home. We still have a basement at home waiting for us to repair it. Damn, you shouldn't have mentioned that basement. I'm already imagining how angry Pepper is. Tony looked up at the sky, where countless raindrops were falling. How about this? I'll leave Pepper to you and the basement to me. I don't really like this deal, but deal. Night. Lyon used the bionic force field in conjunction with heat vision and freezing breath to solidify the last part of the rebuilt wall. He casually wiped the cement on his palm onto his jeans. It's over. He leaned against the wall and looked around, very satisfied with his achievements tonight. The war-damaged basement, which was full of holes, has now been completely renovated, even with a new paint job. All I can say is that the productivity of superpowers is high. After confirming that there was no problem, Lyon went upstairs. He walked into the yard, took off his jeans, and dived into the swimming pool. After swimming dozens of times, he emerged from the water, threw his hair behind his head, leaned on the edge of the pool, and looked up at the stars. The swimming pool is misty on a summer night, and the sound of waves crashing on the shore is relaxing and pleasant. Strings of water droplets on Lyon's body gathered into streams and flowed down his chest, making every inch of his muscle lines appear particularly clear. Tired, right? Congratulations, you have been promoted to the Stark family's decoration boy. From now on, our family will no longer have to worry about decoration issues. Tony's voice suddenly appeared behind him. Lyon said without even turning his head, "Just this once. Next time you break something at home, Tony, you have to fix it yourself." Tony handed over a glass of red wine. "Then it will be your turn to face Pepper next time. She just left and kept complaining that I only caused trouble at home and urged me to go back to work." "She's right, you really should go to work, Tony." Lyon couldn't help laughing. Which company's president would stay at home like you and not show up at the company? Such a company will sooner or later suffer losses and go bankrupt. Tony swirled his red wine and said, "Maybe there is a CEO like this next to me. Go to hell, I'll find a successor soon, unlike you." Lyon also picked up the wine glass and took a sip. The conversation between the two ended here. The pool became quiet, with only the sound of the night wind and the flowing water still echoing. After a while, Tony actually jumped into the water with a splash. After swimming a few laps, he stopped beside Lyon, taking a slight breath, and looked at the starry sky like him. Tony suddenly spoke, and there was no further words for a long time. "What? Just say whatever you want to say. Why are you being so shy?" Lyon saw through Tony's thoughts at a glance. Tony shrugged. "I just thought maybe we two brothers should have a good talk." "Why do you suddenly want to talk? What is this?" Tony's sudden concern. "Did I scare you today?" Tony nodded. "You did scare me, but you didn't scare me. I just really didn't think that your strength would become as outrageous as it was today." He paused and said while drinking red wine, "That has exceeded the limits of worldly understanding. The power of one punch is equivalent to 360 million tons of TNT. No one in this world can stop you from doing anything. Not even me." Tony exclaimed in amazement. He looked at Lyon's sculptured and perfect body. "You are too strong. If someone else participated in today's test, they might even be so scared that they couldn't sleep tonight." "Then can you?" Lyon asked directly. "Of course not. I'm your dearest brother. Even if you peed on me when you were 2 years old, I would still take you to the dance to see the pretty girls. How could I be worried and afraid just because you've become stronger? I'll only be happy for you." Tony was very sincere. Lyon knew that Tony never lied because no one had the right to make him choose to lie. Besides, Tony's tone was extremely gentle at this moment, like flowing water, which made people naturally choose to believe it. "I know that you, Lyon, have never been someone who likes to rely on strength, power, money, or anything else to do whatever you want. After all, in these 18 years, almost 19 years, you have never used the money and other people's admiration to do anything bad. Just like me." Tony didn't forget to include himself. "So I want to ask if you have any plans for the future?" At this moment, Tony really looked like an old father who was taking great pains to teach and guide his son who was about to enter the society. From his words, it was clear that he was afraid that Lyon, who suddenly gained power, would become unbalanced like a nouveau riche. Even though Lyon felt that this concern was somewhat belittling of him. But I have to admit that Tony's concern after putting aside his arrogance is indeed touching. Alright legends, that's it for today. Like, subscribe, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.